Kalele Paradise to Tefafa. Second event nice. But you can say, I'm going to get a match. That's the big colors. That's on a button. Ah, yeah. Interesting. Councillors, we are about to start. Today is the 31st of August 2022. We are about to commence our special council meeting. The procedures for today is, please, councillors in front of you, the round mic. Please do not switch off the round mic in front of you. It is as a recording. Please leave that on, because if you press it and it turns red, it will no longer record.
Just to add, in the previous sessions, because those mics are kept on, we're listening to things that we don't want to hear. So I just want to alert those mics remain on, records everything that is being said in this meeting. A lot of trying to the system. Even using why are we even using it if that's the case? The case is that it's supposed to record the proceedings of the council until it is done.
And immediately that it must be switched off.
Thank you.
Because there is one speaker there which I can't reach. This was meant to, when I need to record, I record and switch it off. But if that thing stays on, there are things that we want to talk about and we don't want things to be recorded. So this system is really not going to in the long run.
It's a bug. What is the use of?
Look, you can still use it.
Why are we also doing this, putting on this one?
The recording in the whole room must be recorded. Action. Mr. Gericke?
As far as I understand, this one is to amplify the voice inside the room so that people can hear me inside the room. That was just for the recording for the output. This one is the mic just to make the sound louder inside the room.
So I cannot press this one. I can speak. So
Yes. Yes.
If you press that one, everyone can hear you better in the room. You can fast sound in the room.
But you hear me now.
I hear you now.
Yeah. So there's no use to use this one.
Okay. The attendance register, please make sure everybody sign it. It is circulating. We will then open this morning's proceeding with our silent prayer. So please, starting now. Thank you. Amen. We continue to point 3, the order of business, which is the application of leave of absence. I have received none. Everybody is present. Point 4, which is the declaration of interest. Is there any declaration by any councillors? None. We will then go to point 5, the confirmation of minutes for previous meetings, date 28 July 2022.
Starting at page 7,
That is page 100.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, attendance registered 21, 22, 23, 24. That brings us to the end.
Is that a true reflection of the minutes? Daniel?
Speaker, I propose that we take the minutes as read and correct.
Proposed by Councillor Nyal. Executive Mayor?
Second.
Seconded by the Executive Mayor. Continue to point 6. Statements and communications by the Executive Mayor and the Speaker. Executive Mayor, is there any communications?
Thank you, Speaker. Yes. Morning to all the councillors, to the directors present, managers and staff, municipality, and people that are joining us remotely as well. Just want to say good morning to everyone. And on the focus of comments that I'm making this morning on the image of Bitou Bay that we're presenting to the general public, both in Bitou nationally and internationally. Currently, our focus is on growing the Bitou economy to create jobs and to create an environment of investment and development that will ultimately lead to an increase in income for Bitou municipality and also to create jobs for our citizens. In the past, we've seen people that were disgruntled for whatever reason either threaten to close the N2 or actually have closed the N2 to further their aims or to make their point. These actions already have lost us potential investors, people to sell what they owned in Bitou and to move away from Bitou. If we're serious about developing the town and improving the lives of all our citizens, as a community, we can't allow the sentiment and threats to continue. On Monday, the 29th of August, our Western Cape Minister of Infrastructure visited us to hand over a further 36 completed houses from the Kuweni 169 project. Again, we had disruptions and threats to close the N2 prior to and during the Minister's presentation. The actions are reported in the press and does not do us in Bitou any good at all. This cannot continue if we're serious about developing our area, as the message sent to investors is one of instability. No one wants to invest in an area where their property and possibly lives of people are at risk. At a meeting last night in Council Chambers with various stakeholders of KwaNokuTula, members of the KwaNokuTula Landlords Association expressed this exact concern regarding possible damage to their properties because of the community decision that all foreigners should leave KwaNokuTula by today, the 31st of August. While the concerns of the Kwana people are real, we need to deal with these issues through the correct channels and not send out messages of instability and possible unrest to the general public. Such messages are ultimately going to lose much needed investment and jobs that will be in benefit to the citizens of Bitou. There is a community meeting in KwaNokuTula tonight, and I appeal to the people of KwaNokuTula to reconsider their decision. Both the South African Police Services and the Department of Home Affairs have given their commitment to address the community concerns and to work with the community to make KwaNokuTula safe for all its residents. I must also appeal to all our residents to make use of the opportunity given by Bitou Municipality to settle the outstanding municipal accounts and to pay for the services that they are receiving. Without receiving these payments, Bitou Municipality will not be able to continue to provide the high level of service delivery that it currently does. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. None. Going to continue 2.7. There's no presentations. Point 8, items for information which has been dealt with by the Executive Mayor in terms of delegated authority. Items for information is a resolution by the Mayoral Committee of its meeting held on 21st July 2022. Just information on screen. We will continue to point 9. Notice of outstanding and partially implemented council resolutions. You have received a document. Those of you who have gone through it, take it. There's no concerns raised. We'll then go to point 10, which deals with the, going to go to the portfolio of index non-delegated matters. The first item is the Office of the Municipal Manager. Item C, stroke 1, stroke 73, stroke 08, stroke 22. The quarterly budget and performance report for quarter 4 from 1 April to 30 June, submitted in terms of section 52D of the Municipal Finance Management Act, Act 56 of 2003. You would find the item on page 41 to page 47. Item serving. Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. Before I propose that we go with the recommendations, I just would like to comment on the number of items that we didn't achieve, and appeal that in the coming year, we basically focus on actually making sure that we take targets seriously, and to try and have more greens than what we have of the other colours on this report. I know that it's now already two-thirds of the way through the first quarter, and traditionally we have a lot of catching up after the first quarter. So the first quarter is not normally a good performance, but I'd like to encourage all the managers and all the staff to make sure that we focus properly on what we have planning, to make sure that we meet our objectives on a quarterly basis, and not just leave everything till the end of the year. So with that, I'll propose that we go with the recommendation.
Proposal by the Executive Mayor. Councillor Nel.
I will second that, Speaker.
Item seconded by Councillor Nel.
Can I just mention, Speaker, I'm sorry, these microphones are not working.
Is it the round one?
Okay, it's fine. The round one is recording. When you want to be recognized, you can just raise your hands, Councillor Nel, but we take note of the.
Yeah, you.
Thank you.
Please just, where the mic is not working, you can just raise your hands for recognition, and then you can continue.
Your face is.
Next item.
Executive.
It is
Recommendations.
approval of IDP process plan and budget time schedule, which is item C, stroke 1, stroke 74, stroke 08, stroke 22. The item is on page 48 till 116. Item is now serving. Councillor Nel.
Speaker, I propose that we go with the recommendation.
There's a proposal by Councillor Nel. Councillor Willowfield.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Willowfield. Next item, the RF 2186 augmentation fee on item C, stroke 1, stroke 75, stroke 08, stroke 22. You would find the item on page 117 to 120. The item is serving before the floor. The MM has raised indication. MM.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, perhaps it's unavoidable, so I would want to direct us comments, perhaps council get understanding as to why now considering that this item be withdrawn. I think we must bring everyone on board. I'll speak after the two directors have spoken about this issue, but it is slightly embarrassing. If you do ask me for personally.
Thanks, Edwin. I would go first, Mr. Gieriko or Mr.
I think I would have to start with this one. We're talking about the property in Main Street where Market on Main was previously and getting redeveloped. In 2012 and again in 2018, the zoning certificate was issued to say that the property is done for business purposes. The officials as well as the developer acted on that zoning certificate and the building plans were processed on the basis that it is a business property. It was only realized later on when we started looking at implementation areas that because there is what we call the split zoning. Half the property is owned for business purposes and half of the property is owned for light industrial purposes. Which means that building plans should not really have been approved because it was still a zoning process that had to be followed to change the zoning from light industrial to business. But by that time, development, the previous building has already been demolished, and we were sitting with the situation as an issue then. So the building plans were approved on the condition that augmentation and development charges be paid as determined by the municipality. That is where we are at the moment in terms of the plan process. The zoning issue should not be an issue anymore because with the new zoning scheme, property will in the end be earmarked for business purposes. So we will solve the zoning problem. The issue remains that the developer should be liable to pay some augmentation and some development contributions because the zoning was not in place in the first instance. I think that is maybe the best summary from my side. If there's any questions, I'll be able to answer the questions, but I'm going to give them.
Thank you. Mr. Roder?
Thank you, Chair.
Speak first.
Thank you, Chair. So Rudy was explaining this, Chair. He said, normally when this is land use development application, development charge is applicable. Here the development charge policy by this council in 2015. And the whole forward and introduction of that policy at that stage said the council is only collecting about 3% of development charges that are due to it. And on that score, development charges policy was developed in terms of how we could link development charges. Development charges goes in soon, go kitty, and then expand the greater network, fund master plan items, etc. So that development can always come to the town without being hampered by infrastructure issues. We discussed in the CFO. So on this one, because the site was, or it was erroneously said that the site was business, I think town planning then thought there's no development charge that's headed into the developer, and development then goes with the head. When it came to us, we immediately saw you can't go from a pizza shop to a hotel without paying development charges. There must be something wrong with this. And we looked into the whole zoning scheme stuff, and we found out that the site was split zoned. So part of it is business, part of it is split. So what we said now, there is now, because the industrial side of the zoning had to be rezoned before even building plans should have given, but I think that is dealt with in terms of what the director had said. So at the moment, there is now a dispute on the development charge and augmentation levies. And I think this is what the MMA is saying, just give us more time so we can just sort it out and come back. The rough total of development charge is about 4 million, roughly, to to be paid, and we need to see how to deal with that, and how, bringing the municipalities then.
Thank you. Let me just give you questions from Councillor Abai. Then Councillor Nyam.
Thanks, Speaker. Speaker, I'm zooming into the recommendations. Number 4. I need clarity there. And it's written in bold. I need clarity there. Can I be clarified with
Is the recommendation
issue number?
strategic services or
Yes.
it's strategic services number 4? MM? Okay, let me just, Councillor, okay, let me just get it. Do you want to, can we take like 2, 3 and then respond, or do you want it individual to respond to you on your first question and then?
Let me finish up mine. I need clarity. Because when I need clarity, then I will.
Can I just ask where we are in terms of rates and taxes on the site at the moment? What are we earning there? I think if I understood it, it's somewhere in the order of 7,000 a month.
That is, my recollection was something like that. I will check in the meantime, but that is what I've got.
And if I remember correctly, the rates and taxes that will be earned from now on for the new proposed development will be something in the order of 180,000 rand a month. So there is a significant amount of municipal revenue that we will be missing out. That is one aspect to this thing. The other is the augmentation fees, as far as I understand it, is well, that's augmentation fees. Then we have development fees, which I think the concern is as far as revenue for the municipality is concerned, which was raised in 2015. But in this instance, what we are looking at is the municipality is going to stand to lose a lot of revenue if this development is stopped. As we understand it, as I understand it, the developer cannot and will not pay the augmentation fees and has threatened to withdraw the development if that continues. The fourth item, the concern is that there are levies which need to be raised. And I think it is something like 1.5 million in terms of electrical installations, which the developer is doing. Is that correct? So what we are saying now is we would be chasing away our developer. And I really think we should waive this augmentation fee.
Let me quickly give to MM then, Councillor. Let me just make sure that they're going to respond to your.
Really, Speaker, what was Councillor Nel saying?
I can't do it.
What was he saying? Because I said I need clarity on point number 4. Then I can be able then to ask questions.
We give to MM.
Sorry, Speaker, I don't mean to be rude, but I also have a point of clarity based on what Mr. Rohde said on point number 4. Because point number 4 says that the development fees needs to be waived as well. I just wanted to confirm, did Mr. Rohde say there's no dispute regarding the development fees, or did I hear him? Did I not hear him? That's what I want to know.
I think MM will guide us. You will.
So let me try very slowly. We're sitting with a crisis, and to such an extent, the crisis is created by the municipality internally. This developer was approved, as Ludo said, in terms of the building plans. In that approval, the property is zoned as business. No light industrial or whatever, or two split or everything. The developer was given permission to start with the development. The developer has,
Can, when you explain this whole thing, can you give us also the time frames? When was it approved? When did this whole thing happen? So that we should not even ask that. We can have a clear picture in which time was this mistakes done or errors or whatever.
thanks for that, Councillor. Rudolph will assist me here. Building plans for that was given was in 2018, initial one, the letter, correct? The zoning, sorry.
Certificate was 2019.
18. So that's the one that was issued as business. Only recently, as last year, they were then given approval to continue with the development. Last year,
Early this year, there's two processes. One is, once they submitted building plans, if the municipality is satisfied that the zoning is in place, we can give permission to proceed with the building, not utilization. And permission was granted probably around March or so.
okay,
Then in July, the building plans themselves were approved,
okay.
which gave them the right to develop, but subject to the payment of augmentation.
So, yeah, I think the time frame issues is covered. So now the developer has started, the building is what it is, what we see now, everyone driving, passing the situation. Subsequent to that, I get emails and including requests for a meeting by the developer, where they are of the view that based on the zoning certificate that they've received, the augmentation fees is not payable. And they simplify their argument in saying that originally when the initial business was done there would have been augmentation fees that was paid. So why they have to pay again? And then they even argue in terms of the city of Cape Town, which I told them we're not city of Cape Town, we are a municipality that's governed by our own policy, our own time. So one of their gentlemen simplified it and say, their understanding is that if you've got an RDP house, it's got one toilet, you extend it, and then you've got 4 toilets. Why must you pay augmentation fee? They were trying to simplify it. In their perspective, why must you pay augmentation fee? Because now you've got 4 toilets. 4 toilets means more capacity and all of that. So I've looked at our policy at several meetings. I think I'll be professional in other issues in terms of how I raise them, considering that the meeting is public. With the user department. So this item went to Section 80 committee because we need to give an answer to the developer. The developer is interested to have an answer. This matter has been outstanding for months for him now. He wants to have an answer in terms of knowing, am I supposed to pay 4.2 million excluding that or not? In our view as a developer, we're not supposed to pay 4.2 million. In our view, we agree 1.5 million for electricity is payable that we can pay. We agree in terms of the upgrading of the infrastructure. That one, Mike, is the water and sewer for the developmental charges, which is about 1.5. Because remember, let me simplify it. The pipe that goes outside of that area to our infrastructure originally was meant for a smaller capacity. So if it was, I'm not saying, I'm just practicalizing it, simplified. If it was a 1 meter pipe, because of the capacity now with the hotel and everything, it needs to be bigger. So if engineering is saying that to pour in our infrastructure, where our infrastructure goes on the street, it cannot be 1 meter, it's supposed to be 1.5. That is their responsibility in our view to actually upgrade that pipe. And that cost in terms of that is 1.5. There is no dispute from their side in terms of that amount. there is no dispute from their side in terms of the 1.5. They are disputing the fact that they have to pay the 1.2 on augmentation fee on the basis of the errors that we have created internal about that zoning certificate of 2018, to only come and tell them now in July that it's light industrial and not light industrial, while already we have given them processes, and they're saying if they've given them that information, they would have factored in terms of their costing, in terms of this development and the cost. So on that basis, then they've got their legal opinion. So I've engaged with them to say, this matter is not a legal matter now. We are engaging. So there's two issues from my side as an accounting officer. Firstly, I am disappointed administratively how the matter has been handled. But let me state it on record also, it's not this only one. In Kwanakutula, there's a boxer that is coming. I was alerted. It's the same situation. The contractor is starting, is clearing the field, will be starting construction. And when they start construction, we're going to be stuck with this situation again because we have given them permission to go ahead so long. But there's not even a service level agreement that is signed in terms of understanding what you're supposed to pay, what is our responsibility as a municipality. I must apologize to council. Ordinarily, this item, I can agree, is not a council item. But you must understand the position that I'm in as an accounting officer now. Because if we do, and that is perhaps what Councillor Nel was trying to explain, which I'm going to get to now. If we do say the 4.2 million is payable, including that is 4.8, what is the message that we are taking outside to people who are interested to develop in this town? Because of our internal errors or whatever processes. What is the risk that is involved if this developer pulls away and leaves that site as it is, then we are dragged into court processes? Those are the considerations I then had as accounting officer, and then I called the two departments to discuss the matter. What are those risks? Hence, then I brought the item to council. Ordinarily, this is not an item for council because council has already approved policies. Documentation fee, zoning scheme policies, zoning bylaws, we're supposed to implement those policies as they are approved. Now, failure in that process has created this situation now, where it puts administration, specifically the accounting officer, in a difficult position because he does not have the authority to agree that that 1.2 million that they are arguing is not payable. Should that 1.2 on the other side, Councillor Pollard, council say it's not payable, by implication, it means that the ratepayers must fork in that amount on behalf of the developer. So this is a dilemma that we are sitting with. We have to try and save this development to continue in town. And let's forget slightly about consequence management. Maybe it's something that will happen at a later stage. It has to happen. But for you as council, strategically sitting in your position, the risk in terms of this development withdrawing, and I think that is what Councillor Nel was trying to say, and he said in the committee, because now we are getting about 8,000 a month. We would get about 189 a month if this development is completed this time, in terms of the revenue from the municipality. So there's this risk that we are involved. Then, unfortunately, both departments in the direction were informed to do the calculations so that the section 18 will have those calculations. Those calculations are only available this morning. ASIPA has provided those calculations. They're met. Those calculations is that for electricity, there is 1.5 million that is payable. There's no dispute from the developer in terms of that amount. There's an amount of 1.5 million which is payable for developmental charges. This is the one that I've explained in terms of the infrastructure to be slightly upgraded. There cannot be dispute in terms of that because you are upgrading that infrastructure, Ordinarily, there should not be a dispute about augmentation fees. because it's a contribution that we make. But also this contribution is something that we'll discuss and deliberate further in the workshop that we have requested about the financial position of the municipality. In the meeting, just to make everyone understand of the Premier's Coordination Forum yesterday, Mossel Bay and Saldanha are in a lucky position. Everyone is asking why Mossel Bay is developing, why Armanas is developing. It's because they are putting money on the budget to align the budget with your infrastructure master plans. And unfortunately, we have not done. We've got infrastructure master plans that are approved, but there's no money put for the development of that infrastructure plan. Now we have to ask the developers to pay that money now in order to contribute for future growth of the infrastructure in town. So this is the situation that we are sitting. These are the things that will cause a municipality, a developer to come and say, I'm interested to develop. And all of these things happen, including this payment of this money. Then the developer says, I'm going to Mossel Bay. Because in Mossel Bay, if it delays this decision, sorry, even in fact, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, if this developer had not started, have delayed this decision now for 2 years, he would not have been paying this money at all. He would have just continued, because in 2 years, we would like slightly upgrade the infrastructure with the little that has been given. So this topic, I've asked that it must be discussed in detail about this whole augmentation fees and about development and everything in town in the workshops that we're going to have. But the dilemma we're sitting with now is that the developer has made it clear that they are disputing, for their legal opinion that that 1.2 is not payable. Hence, I'm asking that for now, I know the developer is in a hurry. We're supposed to have given an answer long time ago. It's not right for him. It's not right for the municipality to take over 5, 6, 7 months not to give an answer. Even for a normal inquiry, people, it's not right. Hence, in the section 80, there was a discussion to say, with everything that I've explained now, 1.5 of the electricity is payable, and then that is why number 4 is subject to below 5, that the augmentation fee, which is the 1.2 million, and at that time in that committee, they didn't have those figures, that the 1.2, in essence, number 4 is saying that 1.2 of the augmentation fees must be waived, subject to the developer agreeing that the 1.5 of electricity is payable. And I think Councillor Nel did ask in the meeting about the DC's whose responsibility it is, and then it was given an answer that is the developers, which means the 1.5 for developmental charges and the 1.5 for electricity is payable. So number 4, it says, subject, if council were to consider to waive the 1.2, it will be subject to that the developer must know that instead of paying for 4.2 million, they must pay for 3 million, which is 1.5 for electricity and 1.5 for as calculated. So that is what number 4 is trying to say, Councillor Kapai. But this morning I met with the team. I thought it's going to be a short meeting. I'm of the view that I would rather say to the developer, we have not taken a decision. It's a difficult one. It's wrong. It's sending a wrong message. It happened that another developer who's interested also on 2 developments is actually aware and knows these developers. So the anticipation is, are we going to waive these things going forward? So hence I'm asking the item to be withdrawn. Administration must sort the mess that they've created, and it comes back with the right advice. The unfortunate part, or sorry, the negative thing about it is that over 7, 8 months, we're unable to give a developer a clear answer. And the message of that developer, when we meet and when he meets with other developers who've got money, is that this is a situation in Bitou Municipality, and that turns off investment. So I hope I have clarified it. If you discuss it, you can discuss it, even to the extent maybe that we can continue with the agenda and we come back on this item if we are not clear now, because of all the information that I've just given, whether we should take a decision or not now to withdraw the item or to continue with that waiver. But as I said, Mike, you said to me, Kranzuk is also might be impacted. As a developer, I was not aware. I only became aware this morning about one in Kranzuk as well, you know. So this needs to be corrected, and then this needs to be done correctly, you know, in terms of this process. It's unfortunate what we are planning in terms of dealing with this issue of development charges. It's later on where it could address all of this thing completely the way that we want to go forward, you know. But the risk is a developer will be angry, we're not giving him a chance if we withdraw. If we come back with a more correct way, you then mitigate the risk of him going to court against the municipality or other people feeling that this thing is unfair being done by the municipality or he must pay. You would know yourself, plat on its own for different two groupings. There is those that want to retain plat as their retirement town. There is those want to continue to see development of the town. So there is a contestation in terms of the space. We have to be correct in terms of the decisions that we make. So I think I've clarified the matter, you know, because it's not going to be this one only. Soon will be affected on the Boxer. In the next council meeting, Boxer one is already in, and then the Kranzuk one probably as well, you know. And it doesn't matter that I'm the municipal manager from 1st of April. I apologize to council in terms of how this thing was treated, and I will ensure that council, it does not happen again. Thank you. Not only on this one, on the Boxer and possibly on the council, as I was informed this morning. Thanks.
Based on your question, Councillor Tsabai, are you satisfied with the answers?
I wanted clarity.
So you're now on a point of clarity.
I'll move from the point of clarity. Going to ask a question. Because I said I want clarity on point number 4. I got clarity.
Up you on the follow. Okay. Councillor Nyal, then Councillor Klana. Yes, on your follow-up.
So Speaker, this development is the one that the wife of the mayor was selling sweets. Is it the one? The corner.
With transports used to be.
Or the one that moved at the back?
No.
Not the development there.
Oh, okay. I thought it's the one that the mayor's wife was selling. Yeah.
It seems you need a lot of clarity this morning.
We are in a predicament here. It's a quagmire. Yeah, Speaker. And moreover, we need development in our town. I've heard that the municipal manager saying, so unfortunate that we don't budget for the development. And really it's our challenge in this town that the developer comes and we say fork out money. And immediately after the developer runs away. So we are not assisting developers. Now it's up to council. I think we must go back to the drawing board immediately after we take a decision here. How are we then going to make it possible that development takes place in Bitou? That means in terms of budgeting. Well, I'm not going to politicize it because so many things are politicized. I'm not going to politicize it. But what we need now, we need a solution. The council must take a decision in favor It's a whole lot of money. It's serious money, this one, that we want to win. I'm in for development. But this town must not be a retirement village where Ubilnel must retire here. We want also a town that is economically viable. The poor of the poorest depend on development to get jobs. So let me be a mouse and go and take off that bell from the cat. That I will be supporting the waiver so that the development must carry on. With the challenges that we are going to have, I've said then we must go back to the drawing and make funding possible so that development can move on in Bitou. The one in Kwanogutula, people are very excited that they are going to get jobs. We cannot be rigid about developments, but mistakes of such magnitude are a no-no. We need people who are very sober when they are taking decisions, because really also we need revenue as a municipality to keep this town beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kabai. Councillor Nyal and Councillor Mhlana.
Speaker, I will not attempt to fill the space with a speech. I want to say, let's not throw away the baby with the dirty bathwater. Sandiso Kabai is correct. We need development. I said, I'm not in a discussion with you. I suggest that we do not waste any further time. We are going to lose jobs. We are going to lose money. We're going to lose development. We are losing out on growth, potential growth on tourism. We are chasing away potential developers. We have made errors, and I think it is correct that we address those errors in retrospect. But for now, I suggest that we waiver those augmentation fees in this council meeting. Otherwise, we have another lengthy process, an administrative process, and we might even have to see the thing come back to council in a month's time. That is unnecessary. It is an emergency. The developer has, in fact, not threatened, said very clearly he will if he's forced to pay augmentation fees. So let's not waste any time. It's not only this development. It is developments throughout Bitou. It's developments in Kranshoek, it's development in Kwanagutula. All of those developments say jobs are being created. Say we are improving the lives of people, of our people. I am for not wasting any further time. Thank you, Speaker.
I will allow Councillor Mhlana. I think he's standing down now. One more speaker, then we're going to make a ruling. Executive Mayor, and Councillor come, then we will make a ruling. Because we're dwelling too much on this point. We need to come to a conclusion on this item. Mayor?
Thank you, Speaker. I agree with Councillor Kabai. We need to be careful about the message we send out. If we want development and we send out mixed messages and making it difficult for developers, they're going to go elsewhere. And it's not that we have caused the problem that we have caused ourselves, and we need to fix the problem ourselves. This developers on the timeline for 1st November next year. His tenants are basing their predictions on that as well. And if he cannot deliver by the 1st of November next year, he's going to lose tenants. And that's basically what will be the call to stop the development. But what I've learned as well is in talking to other developers and other investors, they're all linked, they all know each other. So the bad news story of one goes to the other and they watch those things and then it stifles the development. I was in Cape Town last week at a meeting and I met another developer there that's wanting to develop in Bitou as well. So we need to make sure that our policies are correct in terms of what we need to implement. And when we initiate, or when developers initiate discussions, that we give them correct information and not give them wrong information. Because upfront, issues can be discussed, but we can't wait until a developer has got a zoning certificate that says his property is zoned business, and then tell him 4 years later that we were wrong and it's his fault. It's not his fault. So I think in interpreting what Councillor Hereby said, he is approving the recommendation and proposing for the item. And if that is the case, I will second the item.
Yeah, I would want advice in terms of how.
Number 5.
That's what I wanted to get. You, in your initial, in your follow-up, you were in agreement.
Yeah.
So you were then therefore some.
We made some sort of a phrase about the cat and the mouse.
Just Councillor Kamka.
Speaker, my question remain, we are all in favor of the augmentation fees levies to be waived. That item says and development contributions. On point number 4 and on point number 5. From both the and Mr. Rueda's explanations, there are not disputes regarding the development contributions. So I just want to know, are we leaving it like that now? Or are we just sticking to the augmentation fees? Or am I understanding the whole thing wrong?
Explanation, ma'am?
Chair, it's what I thought the other speaker who wanted to still talk on the item, then I can then clarify that so that we know what we are actually waiving and why that part. I can come and clarify that. So if other councillors wants to debate so that at least you've dealt with all the comments on the item.
I'm just worried we're gonna
Okay.
answer because now there was a proposal and a second.
Okay, no, it's fine. Speaker, in terms of this item, firstly, I must, as accounting officer, say my appreciation on the difficult bold decision that councillors are taking. It's not true their fault. It's a difficult decision, but I must also state, you to also make another unhappiness, but that's a reality of this thing that you cannot make everyone happy, but you need to do what is actually think is best and right for the town. So I appreciate and I commend council. So in terms of this, they need to remain number 1. Can I just pick a one? Number 1 remains in terms of the recommendations. I think number 2 also remains. Currently splitting zone portion. Yeah, that remains because that's a fact now that we know. That it be noted that the error occurred in 2012 and 2018, whereby that remains. That it be noted that the error will be corrected, that remains in terms of, and number 4, that subject to 5 below, council approved to waive the augmentation levies in relation to portion, and then we take out developmental contributions. And then in number 5, that it further be accepted that the developer must pay the developmental charges in respect of electricity, water and sewer. Mike, correct? So, because the developmental charges, the risk that we are saying are payable, they are not really so related in terms of the zoning certificate. Is that correct? A lot of you shaking your head.
Everything correct. The only thing is the developer has to pay augmentation fees for electricity. He has to agree to that, and he has to pay those augmentation fees. As long as we've got that in the.
It's the 1.5 million.
Then what about the rental charges for sewer and water? We waive, okay. So we're then saying this council is waiving 1.5 plus 1.2, 2.7 million.
Sure.
Okay. So then it means number 4 would say that subject to the council approves the waiver of the augmentation fee in relation to, so it means the original one remains Steiner, the augmentation fee and developmental charges.
Because we're talking about rates, we're talking about developmental fees.
Not moving rates. we're waiving developmental charges, DC charges. That's the one that I've explained in terms of
Yeah, that is
from
what
the
I want.
infrastructure that they must actually, So then the other one is the augmentation fees, which is payable. That one, which is linked to this issue of the zoning certificate in terms of that. So I'm gonna come back then in terms of, so I'm gonna listen.
It is still standing. Just some closing arguments. Councillor Botha, I see your hand.
Thank you, Speaker. So I just want to get clarity there. The MF has said the developer was happy to pay 1.5 million rand for electricity and 1.5 million rand for the development. He was not happy to pay 1.2 million rand for the augmentation. If that is what he was happy to pay, and we understand that the augmentation fee, our mistake, that it was a result of our, then why are we not putting that down there? It's 1.5 and 1.5. Can the proposal
Councillor Mhlana also.
clarify what they agreed to?
Councillor Mhlana.
I think my also question is closer to what Councillor Porter is asking now. Now, if we have to, if we have to waive, yes, if we have to waive, does it mean now the infrastructure that the developer was supposed to do, is it us that is going to
No, let me clarify.
Just on this culture
And
clearly so that
advise. One, there's a portion of developmental charges, which is 1.5. There's a portion of electricity charges, which is 1.5. So electricity is resolved. And there's an augmentation fee of 1.2. The developmental charges is in relation in terms of the capacity of what is going to be happening there to our sewer or to our water. Mike, is that correct? So I want us to be careful. The developer may argue for that 1.5 as well, because on the email that he has sent, he has indicated, officials of the municipality have already indicated that amount is not payable. I am of the view, and I'm advising council, if council consider the waiver, consider the 1.2 on augmentation fee. The risk involved on the waiving of the 1.5, we are saying the pipe that comes from the property to our infrastructure is supposed to be bigger. The municipality must carry those costs, not the developer. It might be a serious issue that we are setting, because that one ordinarily is always with the developer. Actually in our policy like that. And I was saying to the team, I would rather go and speak to the developer in terms of trying to convince and explain to him in terms of that one. I did ask that we must speak open in this meeting, because should this matter be a legal matter, you will be forced to speak, both of you. And I said I would appreciate that you differ in this meeting. At the end of the day, I will have to advise council as the accounting officer in terms of what I advise. So I think I've clarified Councillor Porter. Councillor Mhlana.
Councillor.
So, Speaker, can we be advised slowly? What is it that we must waive? Which amount?
Right.
Now we're going to
Let's make it easy, Speaker. Ludolf, your views. I'm going to advise as accounting office, because I want these things to be recorded, because I've stated to the two directors, should this thing become a legal matter, it's no longer about Ludolf or Michael Rode said what. It's the municipality versus the developer in court. Ludolf to start, Michael Rode, I'll advise what my view is as accounting officer.
given the development charges, the developer is supposed to pay is 1.5 million. He is disputing that, the MM has said that, but I do agree from my side that some form of development charges has to be paid, and that's been calculated as 1.5 million. The augmentation fees for electricity is also 1.5, around 1.5. That the developer is willing to pay. Those are the 1.5 and the 1.5 that Councillor Wood has referred to. The water and sewage augmentation is about 1.2, and that is the recommendation that be waived. So it's only the 1.2 in the 1.5 for development charges, 1.5 for electricity augmentation. Still has to be paid.
Mike?
Maybe just context to this. We have I'm concerned going forward on this one because we have the policies that speak to this. The decision here is now of that policy. Okay, I have it right. What happens going forward? You know, because we get developers that try to lump all the time and we push back because we have a policy that supports us. Now, it's difficult going forward. So just the context, augmentation fee is where council has made when Plettenberg Bay started, council has made over the years investment into the big infrastructure, the dams, the reservoirs. And as developers and households, developers come up and build buildings and houses, increase their toilets, and etc. All of them pay an augmentation fee. And the augmentation fee is a buy into the slice of what the municipality has invested. So that fee is not back into a studio, back into a kitty, to now further increase because it will get up, go up. I'll explain myself. And forward and clear. So you need to build more from other developers to come. The other developers will also buy portions into the infrastructure. So we increase. Development charges is where you have a development, but now you want to build, but the pipes that feed your development is not enough, the actual pipe pipes. So you need now to increase them. In this case, it was a pizza store, now to a hotel. I mean, you can imagine. So we need to increase the pipe, the physical pipe as you explained to it. And it is a master plan item, but it's not up for doing that now. You also explained that 5 years later we might have dealt with that and then develop will not pay. But now, if we waive the DCs, then it means the municipality must pay it or leave it in the hotel contract. That's the context.
Yeah, thank you. The advice from my side, Councillor Mhlanga, is the developer has indicated that he's got in writing from an official of the municipality that the development charges and augmentation fees are paid. If you look at the item, go to legal comment there. If you look at the item on the comment from legal department, start there, the decision of the zoning issued was the municipality delegated and all of that in administrative action, that decision becomes functional. Okay, not all of those big languages. Neither the accounting officer or the council can amend or waive the incorrect zoning. So that speaks to the issue of the zoning for the 1.2. But also, into the developer that the DC is not payable. And that sentence by the legal manager equally applies because the developer is not interested, or in a court of process, they are not interested. That official of the municipality acted on behalf of the municipality and had delegated authority to actually do that. This is the predicament that Councillor Zabai said we are sitting within this situation. So, if we waive only the 1.2, there is still a potential risk that the developer might still not continue because I want the 1.5 as well. On the 1.5 electricity, there's no issue. The 1.5 on the DCs to be also waived. There is that risk that we are sitting with. And I was saying, if we waive only the 1.2, there's that risk, but if you waive the if you don't, we only waive the 1.2 and then that 1.5 is payable, it gives me chance to try and negotiate with the developer to say, these are the rationale and the reasons why this is payable, this amount, because once you do it like that, is what Mike refers to as setting the precedent. But I am concerned, but not too much concerned about the precedent, because we need to sit before the 20th of September and discuss this matter and have a clear resolution in terms of how we're going to deal it going forward, as Councillor Bitou said. So, if we don't waive the 1.5, it might still have challenges in terms of continuation. So, the decision that we have to take, we waive the 1.5 and the 1.2, we continue, then there's no risk from a developer side or from the municipality side. The only risk is, of course, with everyone else in play who's got their comment, which we can then respond in terms of that response. I hope I've clarified it now, and then I'm just clarifying it, Councillor Mhlanga, first, so that we are clear in terms of what decision that we must actually take. It's unfortunate. It's a predicament. You have not created it yourself. It's created by all these approvals that were given to the developer.
Councillor Kabay, I'll be with you now. See Councillor Kolopi. Councillors, this is, yes. But we need to start moving now as well. I understand we want the best for the town, but need to make decisions now as well. The one, Councillor Kolopi, Councillor Kabay, and let's make decisions.
I want if clarification first. Because when we hear from the MMs, it seems to be 2.7 that we need to waive. I'm subject to be corrected. From your hearing from the Director of Technical of Economic Development, is with the view that let's only waive 1.2. The 3 million should be paid. When you listen from the Director of Technical Services, he's more of the view that let all the 4.2 be paid. Those were setting a precedent. Am I listening well? According to what was already there from 2015. When you listen to this, if this thing is understandable, that cost us 1.2 to waive when it comes from economic development. The other 3 million let it be paid. But when you hear from OMM, you understand that even the developmental fee we need to waive because, and also the water thing we need to waive because there's an official who said there are no water and things and developmental fee that we pay here because we attract developers. We've got 3 issues here on the table. Hence, we find it difficult to finalize a recommendation. But the wavering, a basic idea of wavering, it has been proposed, it has been seconded. We are stuck in an amount. How much are we waiving here? Because OMM said he's going to advise us after the 2 directors have spoke. As much, I would love to say, as much that we also want developers to come, but at the same time, we should not set ourselves to a situation that we bring in developers that will want to suck money out of us and make everything. At the end of the day, we're not feasibly sustainable and make others possible to do so. And there's a norm, Speaker, that every time when something hits the fan here, it always have to compare it with, there's another one that is coming, another one. We've been here from a long time where we're asking, can we have what is this evaluation of the properties and everything, yeah, so that we can know what's happening. Just to bring a little bit, tourism was always doing it developmental, not developmental, developmental conferences, where there were more asking developers to come. The frustration that was sitting with the CEO then, Peter Wellington, it was all the time the developers or the people who want to develop here, they were crying over the zoning, over the whole thing of the plans of this town, that everything is yucky here. It's going on a slow pace. Imagine now having this kind of a message that whatever we do, 2020 the zoning was this, 2012 zoning was this, 2008 it was this, 2022 it was this. It's another Kengoku frustration on its own. We should avoid those things. Every time things are being brought here, when they are hitting a fan. The thing of these Atlantica apps, yeah, we are gonna lose jobs. People are losing. Why are we always set up into those things? Things are coming in a last minute, and if decisions we are taking here, we are taking them out of the pressure because we are fearing that people are gonna lose jobs. We are fearing developers are gonna go. We compare Kwanokutula, and it can't be. Things have been done on this side on a formal manner been years. We can't compare Kwanokutula with this side, with the things that has been happening here. We know for a fact that Mr. Kharik was saying when he was presenting that even at Kwanokutula, there are things that portions doesn't even be known. There's Nandi Pula Pula that is working as a conveyance on these things on the grounds over there. There's the department of Mr. Kharik. There's a whole confusion. We can't allow those things, Mr. Speaker. That's what I'm saying. Things should not be brought to us when it's in the emergency thing, and we take decisions over emergencies. We set a tone of solving emergencies. Here's the thing that Mr. is bringing to us, Mr. Rode. That is a 2015 thing, that if we set that tone, still other developers will come and say things are being done free in place. As much that we fear that other developers will fear to come.
Can I just?
Attracting him to come.
You had your chance in speaking on the item, Councillor.
No, I'm not going to. What I want to say, Speaker, is that we are wavering only 1.2 million. We are not accepting corporate bullying. MM must go and tell those guys that we've wavered 1.2 million. Then if negotiations takes place, then they must take place. But as council, we will be only wavering 1.2 million. The way it came to us, that's enough, you see? Because we are careful of also a corporate bullying. Yes. Those guys, they've got money, they bully everybody. We were. MM must negotiate with them. Yes, yes. Yeah, that's what
while MM speaks, then make sure that we have the correct wording on the resolved recommendations on the floor.
Yeah, Speaker, I did indicate to the team, that perhaps I should have asked that this item we discuss it.
Because the council meeting is open. Can I appeal? I don't think there's much difference of opinion, and I must really apologize because you are faced with a difficult decision that you have not created yourself. It's created by the administrative situation, Councillor Tapai, One, I was advising as accounting officer, and with your help, the message and the tone that we are sending. Councillor Kolabi, I'm just going to clarify again. What we are dealing with here, we're going to deal with. I'm not comparing, and the intention is not to play development in town in Kwanokutul. I'm saying this thing that has happened about the person being given authority to continue is also happening with the boxer. And there's excitement, Councillor Taba is correct, about jobs, opportunities, everything there. Now we're going to come back and that developer and say, now this is what we think we'll pay, and then we have not clarified those matters up front. So unfortunately, it's a situation that has been created that you find yourself in this last hour now. We would not want the situation to be like that. So I gave Speaker both directors to speak because I wanted it to be on record in terms of what they are saying. Ordinarily, augmentation fees and all what we are talking about here supposed to be paid fully. That's what Michael Rode is saying. the director planning and development through their processes and errors that have happened either before him and everything that has happened. With also the communication that they've sent to say this money is not payable in their view, without a firm decision internally, it creates a situation where the developer can then challenge us. That's why I'm saying, read what the legal opinion is saying. Because that legal opinion, it says an official of the municipality was delegated to make that decision, and that official has made that decision. Now, I am saying, my advice, as difficult as it is that we state in number 4, that the subject to 5 below council approve the waiver of the augmentation fee to the 1.2 million. I'm going to come to this. Maybe it's something that I forgot. Michael Roddy just assisted me quickly here, which perhaps Councillor Kapa, you will feel more aligned in terms of what you are saying, and everyone. And then number 5 will then say that that the amount of 1.5 for electricity charges and 1.5 for water and sewer DC developmental charges is payable. So we waive 1.5. The reason I'm advising that way, Councillor Nel, is because on the calculations that I have received already, this amount that originally was supposed to be paid if this zoning was correct as business was 3.2 million. We are actually discounting it to 1.2 million now. Hence my advice to say, as much as it's difficult, because another grouping will be unhappy with this decision of council, but we will then be able to respond as accounting officer and as council in terms of responding and defending that decision. But we are already discounting from 3.2 to 1.5 million for this developer. If we were to think in terms of what Michael Rode is saying, in terms of developmental charges, augmentation fee that is payable, we take a process to say if it goes to court or it dispute, he must go that road, then we'll be saying the amount. But we have to discount now because the zoning part of it is already business and the other part is light industrial. So we have to do calculation which says, what is the amount that is payable? 0.2 million cannot be because already one part is already zoned as business. So when they will discount it to 1.5 million. Hence my advice to council that if council takes this difficult decision to waive, council waives the 1.2 million. Developmental charges, as Michael Rode explained, it's got to do with the network that must go to our infrastructure. That remains the responsibility of the developer, so that we don't get ourselves caught in terms of precedent and other issues, in terms of that matter. I hope I have clarified it now. And again, I must apologize. It's not your own doing. It makes life difficult for you in terms of decision making. I can fully understand. It creates a lot of confusion. I apologize as an accounting officer in terms of what has happened.
Council, for your attention, we have spent now close to an hour on this item.
Point is,
Are you rushing to
Point
New
is-
Horizon?
No.
we are dealing with a tax issue here.
I recognize this. I was
I recognize you though.
saying this. Although we want to act in the best, but we have spent an hour. We need a clear direction where we're going with this. Councillor Mhlana, you are begging me on the side here.
Yeah, I think we are agreeing on 1.2 million waiver. And a consequence management. I don't know who's that person who's committed. You can't commit 3 errors, same errors, 3 times. Something is fishy. Something is just not correct. Something is something fishy. I don't think that person is still here within the municipality who has committed 3 similar errors. I don't think so. We're agreeing on 1.2 million. Nothing above that. I'm not going to be bullied. If he wants to back and go, he can back and go. will bring China as well here. So we can't be really, we can't pay for developers for their development as much as we want development for our people. We really cannot. I think 1.2 is enough.
Thank you. We will then move. I've got it. Yeah, are we clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, it is the establishment of junior town council for Bitou Municipality. Item C, stroke 1, stroke 76, stroke 08, stroke 22, on page 121 to page 130. The item is now serving. MM first, Councillor Olivier, Councillor Botha.
I just wanted to add something on this item which came about later on. And I think the process is correct and it can be then included in that process. We met with IEC as the person representing IEC and political parties. It became very clear. It's 0.6 of the people between 18 and 35 that are actually registered to vote, that are actually showing interest to participate in terms of voting and all of that. And it tells us there's a serious problem in terms of that. Because one, that is the majority of people in South Africa. 85 and above to 40 and 45 is quite a substantial number. But although there's people who are unregistered, but at least that is a bulk of people who are outside. What is actually worse is that more people who are registered is those that are 60 and above. The percentage of people who are unregistered in that category is very, very low. So those are the people that are actively participating, you know. So this item, if it's approved, it must take into account those matters in terms of encouraging participative governance as it was envisaged in terms of local government, in terms of this item. Thanks, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Olivier, then Councillor Botha.
Thank you, Speaker. I don't have to put on the mic, do I?
Can hear you.
Can hear me. Okay, Speaker, I am very much in favor of this item for the reasons that the MM has mentioned here. I'm very aware of that. And I think it's by time that we should be teaching our youth about governance. But I would like us to look at recommendation 2. And the council mandates the office of the speaker to engage all the high schools and colleges in the Bitou area, targeting the age group 16 to 20, with the objective of establishing and formalizing the junior town council. And then recommendation 3, a council mandates the office of the speaker to form a junior town council framework as per annexure A and B circulated with the agenda. So I would like us to take out similar to the city of Cape Town because I want it to be ours. And with adding that into the recommendation, Speaker, I would like to comment.
There's a proposal from Councillor Olivier. The following councillors is on the floor. First, Councillor Botha, then Councillor Mhlana.
I'm all for this. I'm in good favor. It's definitely needed in terms of our youth, and there's no better way of starting it than in high school, just to become politically aware, but also aware as to how governance and government actually happens in our country. I'm not so sure though, I wouldn't go with Councillor Olivier's suggestion to include colleges, just restricted to the high schools. I think that's what's done in the rest of the country. So I'm happy with it as it's stipulated there.
Councillor Mhlana?
Yeah, I know this is a DA concept. Two, I just want to ask.
Sorry, Councillor, you're on the floor, but your remarks is not in line with the item, please.
No.
Your remarks is not in line with the item.
No.
I've said it. Can you please, behave in a proper manner? Address to speak to the item.
I need that.
Continue.
Tonight we are going to one and to talk about the issue of the foreign nationals. And I know, Executive Mayor, the issue of youth development is gonna come up. Is this not a substitution of what we normally call the youth councils? Because we have not seen the establishment of youth forums and the youth council. Is this not the substitution of that? Because remember, these young people who are at school, what are we saying about those that have left school? Most of them are unemployed and their metric, they are out of school, they are there. They are also same as what the municipal manager was saying here, demotivated. Some of them are not even voting. They've decided not to vote because the government is not doing anything. So I just need a clarity, Speaker, as whether this is not a substitution of the youth councils.
For clarity for Councillor Mhlanga.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Speaker. Speaker, it is not intended. It's totally a different process. This intends to actually get young people to be more involved and more educated and be aware in terms of how governments, national, provincial, and local governments, government structures, and issues of council operate. In that way, this framework, as well as I was adding the issue of IEC, the framework that must be developed, it will be guided by this council to include those things, to use this as part of what you call, because normally children believe when the other child says something, instead of sending an IEC official, there will be then ambassadors of encouraging other people to participate in governance process and IEC revision and all of those things. It is not intended to, that must still remain. The youth desk must still proceed with their program in finalizing all of those issues of council. That is focusing in terms of issues of youth development for the youth of Bitou Municipality in total. But this is to mainly encourage, it was requested by a teacher, not Africans, a history teacher, because they feel that it's actually part of keeping the history of the country alive in terms of young people understanding this better. So that framework that we're going to develop would be clearly in that, and it will separate those issues because it must come back for council for approval. But now it's for initiating that process, a clear framework comes back, and then that framework, you will see, it will separate totally the process that is ordinarily in terms of youth councils and all of those matters.
Thanks, Ed. Yes, Councillor Nyao.
Speaker, I second the proposal, and in particular, the 20-year-old limit. That we do not go beyond that, keep it to the schools and the youngest people at the colleges, which could have been people that would have been in school but that moved to college.
Councillor Nyao, I could not hear you.
Yeah.
Understand, sorry, no, this is, I really could not hear the last part. And I've read the second.
Make some grow up, fools. Just grow up. Speaker, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Councillor Nyao.
You have already grown up.
And I agree that we keep the age limit to 20. That we focus mostly on the, but that people in college can be approached as long as they are younger than 20 years old.
It's not new. We must not pretend as if it's new.
Speaker, sorry, quickly. Councillor Bottom, my apologies, asked the question in terms of what Councillor Olive said about colleges and everything. The intention was actually for young people up until to high school level. If you include college, then it might, but I think maybe it's something that might not necessarily be included now, Councillor Olive, in the in the resolution can come up in terms of a discussion and a framework. My understanding, the current college here, even does not, what you call intake majority of people who are residing in this area. They are actually studying outside and to study in this college. It's people who are outside, but those people are over the age of 20 and 23 and above. So it's people who are already at tertiary level. So that's why it was framed for junior, it means that only people that are in high school, but council can, guide me. So I think Councillor Potter, I'm clarifying if, so that was the intention.
Yeah.
Thank you, Speaker. Just to reaffirm what you said about the youth councils, that is next on the program. We're busy sorting out the sports councils. It's not done. The youth councils will continue. This doesn't replace it. What I'm hoping we can achieve through this, we all know when we go to public meetings, we have public meetings often, especially when we're doing the ITP and governance issues, there's not a lot of the public that attend these, and those are the times when the public can actually give input in terms of what they want to see in the budget and what they want to see in the communities. And I'm hoping that through an interest in of the youth in how council operates and how governance happens in municipalities, they will then also, when they go home, speak to their parents, speak to the adults, because often it's children that teach the adults as well. And through that, we can hopefully get the message across to our communities that they need to be involved in the decisions that we're making as council, and they can do that through the various processes we have with the IDP and the budget meetings. So I think it could be good for Bitou to have the youth input and to get the youth educating their parents as to the importance of being involved in council. And I don't know if I was wrong, but I thought that Councillor Botha seconded it. I might have read it wrongly. That's just the comments I wanted to make on the intention and what I like about the Youth Council and hope that we can achieve as a municipality with the Youth Council.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just get it right? The proposal was from Councillor Olivier and then seconded by Councillor Botha with a few.
But it was not accepted when it was seconded by Councillor Nel.
Sorry?
Can I check? Can we assist? It was proposed by Councillor Olivier with amendments.
With
Councillor Botha proposed as it is because she clarified the issue of the colleges which are elaborated on, and she was seconded by Councillor Nel of approving it as it is without the amendments which Councillor Olivier was bringing.
Seconded my.
Seconded was
Councillor Olivier.
okay, so you've got then two recommendations now. One, that it must remain on number two. Number two, that it must add colleges. Then on number three, I think the number three issue is a given. We can take out City of Cape Town similar so that we develop our clear, our goal. So that one can be taken. So the issue now is, do we include colleges or not? That's what councillors have to decide on.
Councillor.
Well, to mention, if we do include colleges, the age limit must be restricted to 20.
Yes.
That was the original proposal by Councillor Olivier, and that is what I seconded.
Councillor Asif.
That is what I wanted to confirm. I don't know if you heard. If we include the college, we include a broader group of youngsters, and I did specify an age group 16 to 20. We're not saying from the colleges we must take older than that age group. We do have people at college that falls within that age range, and just to come to the imam's comment about people coming from other places being part of our college as well, I see it as adding value, because if they do become part of this, then they also get the information. But we can deal with that, Speaker. It's a framework that you're going to have to work with from your office.
Thanks, Councillor Olivier. We will definitely, when we discuss it with the framework and things, make sure we want the best for this. Thank you then. Proposer was, and the seconder, Councillor Nel. Addition, once we get to the framework, we will make sure we have the best. Thank you. Next item. It is the draft policy, burial or cremation of destitute persons in exceptional cases relating to the deceased. Item C, stroke 1, stroke 77, stroke 08, stroke 22. The item is on page 131 to page 156. The item is now serving. Councillor Nyal.
I think I propose that we go with the recommendation. Take note.
Councillor Olivier.
A second.
Proposed by Councillor Nyal, seconded by Councillor Olivier. Next item. Draft policy. Policy for the Mayor's Special Fund in terms of section 12 of the MFMA. Item C, stroke 1, stroke 78, stroke 08, stroke 22. You would find the item on page 157 to page 173. The item is now serving.
Speaker, I propose that we go with the recommendation and do the workshop as proposed.
Is it proposed by Councillor Nyal? Councillor Olivier?
Second there.
Seconded by Councillor Olivier. Next item is the draft policy, granted 8. Item C, stroke 1, stroke 79, stroke 08, stroke 22. Find the item on page 174 to page 206. Item now serving. Councillor Nyal.
Speaker, I propose to take note and will propose for the recommendations.
Proposed by Councillor Nyal. Councillor Olivier.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Olivier. The last item under the Office of the Municipal Manager. It's Final Consequence Management Framework and Standard Operating Procedures. Brackets SOP for dealing with unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful, in brackets UIFW, expenditure supply chain management, in brackets SEM, abuse, financial misconduct, and financial offences misconduct. Item C, stroke 1, stroke 80, stroke 08, stroke 22. The item is on page 207 to page 294. Item is now serving. Councillor Nyal.
Speaker, I propose that we approve the framework as proposed in the recommendation.
Councillor Nyal proposed. Councillor Olivier.
A second there.
Seconded by Councillor Olivier. We move to the next item, section 2, finance. Outstanding debt report for June 2022. Item C, stroke 2, stroke 63, stroke 08, stroke 22. The item is on page 296 to page 307. Councillor Kamkam.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I propose that we go with the recommendations or the report we noted because we still have outstanding report for July. And I'm sure the comments that we want to have, we could also raise some issues in July's report. But that's my recommendation.
Councillor Kamkam, thank you. Councillor Olivier.
A second there.
Seconded by Councillor Olivier. Next item under section 2, disposal of capital assets for the 2021 to 2022 financial year. Item C, stroke 2, stroke 64,
Interesting one.
stroke 08, stroke 22. Item is on page 308 to page 324. Item is now serving. Councillor Kamkam.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I propose the report.
Councillor Botha.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Botha. Third item under section 2, outstanding debt report for July 2022. Item C, stroke 2, stroke 65, stroke 08, stroke 22. The item is on page 325 to 335. Item is now serving. Councillor Kamkam.
Thank you, Speaker. Speakers, we can see our debt collection efforts is, but it's not going very well. Collection rate is very low. Also, we can see that the service provider, the contract with the service provider has now been terminated. And that we need to look at alternative measures or ways to actually get our debt collected. I think in previous council meetings, we did propose that we look at the panel of attorneys, also in an attempt to get the debt collection ratio but up. Also, speakers, we all know that the moratorium ended in June, and with the new policies that kicked in on the 1st of July, now we have to make the communities aware of the rebates and also the amnesties that's available to them. But it seems like, as you can see there, with the way that we are going, we are definitely going to have cash flow problems if we do not have a strategy now to recover our debt. With that, Speaker, I would like us to discuss this and then note the report.
Thank you, Councillor Kamkam. Councillor Manlaba.
Thank you, Speaker. Having to have said in our portfolio meeting with regards to these reports, we did note that we are not doing as much as we should in terms of revenue. Part of it would be due to the fact that the residents are actually receiving their accounts a month or two later because of the way in which the service in which we use to actually have these delivered at their doorstep, which is via post office before they get to them. By the time they get to them, they are already behind. Now, the good about what came out of this council is we sat and we reviewed the division policy, and our communities well received it and they're excited. However, if the letters are then later delivered, it delays everything. I had made a suggestion not so long ago in this council that when we sit and plan around this EPWP, that we consider having messages. But I guess that appeal fell on deaf ears because when you sat at Skype splitting the numbers in terms of who gets what, in terms of EPWP, none of that was considered. Now I urge this council again in the attempt to ensure that our people pay, they own up to the accounts. Let's consider having just EPWPs per area just for those days in a month where they need to deliver the accounts, so that our people are actually well informed in terms of where they stand and they can actually make the necessary arrangements. With that being said, I support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Manlaba.
Speaker.
I will be with you now. The proposal was by Councillor Kamkam, seconded by Councillor Manlaba. I would like to give the Executive Mayor, then you, Councillor Abai.
Thank you, Speaker. My hand was actually up before the council. It's fine. I accept him seconding. Doesn't have a problem. I'd just like to raise concerns, and it leads on from what Councillor Kamkam said, where we dismissed the service provider that was not performing. But it's taking us too long to appoint a service provider to replace that person, because we need to start the process of collecting debt, and we need to make sure that we have someone on board for that. We also know that we have a problem in the ESCOM areas where we're not collecting as well. And we've been speaking about doing something about it for a long time. Also, nothing seems to happen. And following on what the councillor said now as well, is we need to use the resources that we have to get to the people that owe us the money. And I don't know why we're not getting a list of people that owe money, that we use either CDW or EPWP workers to go around to those households with a letter that says your account is in arrear, please come in and make an arrangement to settle the account. And if the person's not at home, to at least leave this notice there. That way we're at least getting to the people and we're starting to try to get money in. Because as Councillor Kamkam said, we cannot continue on this way, but I don't think we're doing enough to actually go out, get hold of the people that owe the money and either get them to make an arrangement for payment, or if they can't afford to pay, to make an arrangement to write it off on condition that they continue paying the current amount. But we need to start doing something and not just talking about doing something. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Tabay.
Speaker, I've got this question, and maybe the officials will assist. Are we obliged or forced by law to send our municipal accounts via post office? Because to me, we can give out a tender to our communities, you see, to disseminate the letters very quickly. Are we then obliged or forced by law to send our municipal accounts via post office? Looking at the quagmire and the situation that we're sitting in, people are not working. Why are we then not taking it and give it to one of the people who have bid it very well? And it's employment at its best. I'm just throwing it there.
Allow, then we could have to propose and just give you, it's like similar what we were, it's funny that Councillor Mangapa has raised it, like we were discussing at Skyvilla. We used to come up with to take out the mess.
Why Skyvilla?
No, it's because there we were discussing the mess we found ourselves as a municipality to fix it. Because when we got here on 18 November, it was really terrible. The papers was all over. So when we were there at Skyvilla, discuss strategies like one of the things you raise now to overcome the mess that we are and to improve our situation as the new government and municipality.
What mess?
Because we found it there in the Skyvilla, the mess we are in.
Oh, is it at Skyvilla? You don't have the mess now.
Continue, MM, then we can go. Then go, MM. I've made a ruling. MM, can we go? We go, MM. Can we go? On the Councillor Tsapai. Councillors, I'm only going to allow clarity for Councillor Tsapai. And then, MM, then we can go.
You are exposing yourself.
Issue of clarity, I'll just speak on the issue of.
Councillors, there's a speak on the floor.
And then I'll speak on the issue where we are in the first session of the mayor after the CFO.
Thank you. Acting CFO.
Thank you, Speaker. There is a provision in the Postal Act that requires all postage to be delivered by the post office that is below 1 kilogram in weight mass. So the council may not deliver mail ourselves, the municipality. So I have encountered this at another municipality where we were threatened by the postal office for criminal behavior because we delivered our mail ourselves. So we are absolutely in the hands of the postal office with regards to that. There are other measures in place. It can be used. We can send out the balance by means of SMS. We can send out email accounts. All those avenues are available, and we would really like to encourage everyone to register on those to ensure that we can give it to them speedily. I think when it comes to our responsibility with regards to the accounts and the sending out, we do generate those accounts, and within 4 days, we attempt to have them out at the post office already for delivery, which means that the delay is absolutely in the hands of the postal service.
Thank you, thank you. MM, then we can go.
Just to add quickly then, equally I've encountered it my last previous employer. The fortunate part is that we could prove that all the delays are because of the problem post office. So we said, even if you try to take us to court or any process, we have been engaging you for a number of years, and here's a proof and everything, because it's a small town, the post office gets to a central point in Saldanha, and then from Cape Town to Saldanha, and then from Saldanha to our town, which takes a lot of time. And then in that way, we then took a decision to use the proposal that is given. But Felix is correct in terms of that. So we need to prove that the post office is failing, because remember, the post office is also government, so there's sensitivity in terms of those. So we must support, that's why that legislation is written like that. Just to appeal, Executive Mayor, I know you are frustrated on this process, but we are trying to make sure that when we correct or try and rectify things, we don't rectify by the same medication. A delay has been simply because we had to analyze the debtors book, and I think the acting CFO has done that exercise now is complete, because we need to understand it's easy to go out on tender now, but we need to understand, because 2012 until 2017, there's processes that were done, there's capacity that was done, there's people that were appointed on debt collection and credit control up until to debt to certain aging, is it, I can't remember, 90 days or what. So we don't want just to go out on tender now for a legal person to collect that, because the implication is that we've got staff that are supposed to be doing this. So we need to get that. What is the debt that we must get out to be collected by the legal people? We don't want also to go out on tender and say debt over 90 days up until 390. Is it realistic for any person to collect debt that is over 300? So not 303 years old, So we have to look at these things when we go out on tender and be specific in the tender, which debt we are saying must be collected, so that we come with a further report into council to say the reason we have not included this in that tender is because we have assessed that it's unrealistic for us to actually try and collect that. And that is where the CFO will speak about the impairment provision and all of those things. So my apologies, Mayor, we will get it, and those were just few things that we just wanted to make sure of that process. Thanks, Speaker.
Councillors, the item is closed. I don't want us to further open up afterwards. So can we please continue? We have portfolios where we can express ourselves and come up with the best possible solutions for council then to consider and then approve. So we will move now to the next item. Report on the annual inventory count at the municipal stores as at 30 June 2022. Item C, stroke 2, stroke 66, stroke 08, stroke 22. You would find the item on page 336 to 414. Item is now serving. Councillor Kamka.
Thank you, Speaker. I recommend that we take note of the report.
House by Councillor Kamka. Councillor Mangaba.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Mangaba. Section 3, corporate service. The first item deals with progress report, establishment of employment equity monitoring committee. Item C, stroke 3, stroke 50, stroke 07, stroke 22. Would find the item on page 416 to page 421. Item is now serving.
Okay.
Councillor Tlapai.
Who's supposed to be in that committee?
It's a question.
One representative from each currency. One representative from each recognized labor union, which is both Imatu and Tango. Two officials from the local labor forum to serve on the employment equity. The local labor forum will be the employer now. Director, you can guide or advise me. will probably be a councillor and official of the municipality. Just go a little bit up, Tanya, and see if it's not covered in terms of the composition here. I'll request the director to advise in terms of the composition.
Director?
Thank you, Speaker. In terms of the composition, all the departments are represented in that committee.
In relation to councillors?
LNF, they have 2 reps from the LNF and 1 rep from each organized. It is from IMATO and Samsung.
The LLF will sit and then decide, because in the LLF, we've got the employer component, which is the officials and the councillors. So the LLF will sit and then nominate those 2 representatives. So the LLF will decide who are those 2 representatives. You know, it can be an official director and a councillor. It can be 2 councillors. So that's why if you go down there, it's 2 unions, then it's 2 representatives of the LLF forum. Then the user department will then be represented.
Yes, how do you know? Mayor, the date on 31st August.
Just looking at that now.
Is it still the correct date? Because I've noticed here it says process be finalized by 31st August, which we are today. Is the date still correct?
No, as well.
Okay.
Be the 30th of September.
October.
October.
Yes.
So we say there by October. Councillor Tsabai?
When you talk about LLF, you also include councillor. I'm worried then. We don't know how elections will go about in that LLF. Because are we then going to involve councillors in matters of HR? It seems as if councillors will employ now. To my understanding.
Let me clarify, councillors will not employ. This is a monitoring committee to ensure that we comply in terms of the employment equity. Council plays an oversight, and council supposed to get reports in terms of whether the municipality is in line with the targets in terms of the employment. So the councillors that are serving in LLF is elected as part of the representative, who will then have that oversight role in that committee and be able to report to council with administration where there's areas we could not meet targets and the reasons why they're not meeting. So council will not employ, council will play its role in terms of monitoring that we remain in line in meeting the targets of employment equity.
Yes. The item is still on the floor. Councillor Wollefield?
The recommendation.
Proposed by Councillor Wollefield. Councillor Sethi? Seconded by Councillor Sethi. Next item is social media guidelines for Bitou Municipality. Page 422 to 431, item C, stroke 3, stroke 51, stroke 08, stroke 22. Item is now serving. Councillor Kamkam?
Speaker, I propose that we accept the recommendations by the Executive Mayor.
Proposal by Councillor Kamkam. Councillor Wollefield?
Second the recommendation by the Executive Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Wollefield. Next item is the communication strategy for the Bitou local municipalities, item C, stroke 3, stroke 52, stroke 08, stroke 22, page 432, page 462. Item is now serving. The social media guidelines for the local municipality. Councillor Olivier,
I go with the recommendation by the Executive Mayor.
proposed by Councillor Olivier,
Seconded, Speaker.
seconded by Councillor Ndai. Fourth item, it's customer care section report for June and July 2022. Item C, stroke 3, stroke 53, stroke 08, stroke 22, page 463 to page 468. Item serving, Councillor Mangaba.
Speaker, if you may assist me, what's the progress with regards to the resolution that was taken in 2018 with regards to consolidation of the contact center and the assist?
Disaster.
Yes.
Repeat that again.
What's the progress with regards to the consolidation of the contact center and the municipality?
Chair, I was informed before the section 80 that resolution is not implemented was the full user department met and had a meeting to discuss the implementation of that, and they came with a view as communicated by the manager in the meeting that is going to be practical because you have to separate the two. I apologize for Councillor Manava, also gets angry in this meeting, which is understandable. That advice that to say it's going to be impractical or it's going to create problem, because the other one is the dedicated line of emergency should have been provided at that time when that council decision was taken. But when I read the council resolution, it did not say open a telephone line here and have these ones also linking in this open telephone line. It said combine and have a centralized. So when you're having a centralized, you can still have a one telephone line that is on the side in this room that is dedicated only to take emergency calls in terms of emergency disaster. And then the rest of the staff are able to operate what we intended in terms of that council resolution, to be implemented. So I hope I've not made you more angry, but I've tried to answer.
I will allow follow-up, then Councillor Kamkap.
Thank you, ma'am, for that info. And this may surprise you, I'm actually not mad. However, having to have set this meeting, and I've identified within this agenda that there's nuances that we are pulling from other municipalities. And which is good because we study best practices in other municipalities to make our municipality better, right? Now, in that same breath, if the managers are struggling, I would rather they do their research thoroughly and visit these other municipalities and study best practices and come and implement a centralized contact center that will best serve this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kamkam.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, in the portfolio meeting, the manager of communications, he told us that they will submit a report to council with the challenges. And in actual fact, he said that they wanted to recommend for council to rescind their 2018 decision.
That's what the MM said.
So, we don't have the relevant information, unfortunately, in front of us to understand this matter, but it is just, it has been dragging for such a long time. And there was an instance here where there were someone said there was a confusion with people that wanted to report an emergency because we've got all these numbers, Whereas if we just centralize and make our operations more efficient, that was the idea behind it. But the proposal is for them to bring the report so that we can see what exactly are the challenges that they say, the reasons why I mean, we cannot consolidate. And then we make a decision from there. But I propose that we go with the recommendations as is, because I'm not sure what to say about the 2018 resolution.
Oh,
Before.
Speaker.
Amendment. Councillor Mans. Right?
Speaker, there's a report here that says there is some resistance. I can't understand, Speaker, why our officials are not working together. If we sit in one place and service the people of Plettenberg Bay. Call center operations, that is CCC, do not make use of a collaborator, that is the logging system. I don't know whether it's not allowed to them to use a collaborator. I think collaborator is a system that is used by all officials. So I don't understand, man, when there is resistance, and moreover, some other officials from CCC are not using collaborator. That means we are short of skill. There's no skill there. And somebody wants to recommend something that is written here, and it is not like, it's not friendly to us, because we want a service delivery that is pure to our people. Why this was made is because customer care starts from 6 up to 11. Then therefore, immediately after 11, there must be synergy. That those ones from CCC must have a skill of taking over and deliver the message to those ones at 6 o'clock in the morning. We want that better service delivery. So there will be a vacuum if those ones from customer care leave at 11 midnight. Midnight to 6 o'clock, there's a vacuum. There's a storage pipe that bursts. It will be only the mayor that calls somebody who is a senior official in the municipality. But the poor of the poorest, who are they calling? So this thing must go and be done and properly. We need people who are going to serve the community. Please.
I will be with you now, Councillor Plana. Mr. Sakati.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to give a credit of the background where this resolution comes from. During 2015, 2016, we were busy with drafting an org structure. And the administration manager then was Alma Khaila. And it was proposed that because they had few customer care personnel, that it should be centralized. At the time, we had after hours centers at the waterworks, at our offices, and at the depot. And when they introduced the customer care, seeing that they lack personnel, it was advised that they must move. I remember Howard Swart was the communication. They must move to the CCC to be centralized. And we were told that health officials must accommodate that on the proposed org. But unfortunately, during that process, it was changed. It was more of a customer care. And despite our advice, we see emergency personnel was also moved through the org structure to fall under customer care, of which the council resolved and the program was supposed to be implemented. During the placement processes, that's where it started. All those control room operators, they objected to placement, and that is why we are still here. It's not that there was a resistance from the people's side, but the operators themselves, it's not resolved yet, so it's still a labor relation issue, it's still an issue of placement that never took place. That's why we are here.
Okay, Mike,
Oh, so interrogating.
I see you for the fourth time. Before I respond on this matter, where are we? And I'm asking really to all of us, where are we? No, I met the municipal manager yesterday, and I always like to share the stories when I'm upset. That, you know, if you don't reign as an accounting officer to your directors and your management, you're going to have such problems. I just want to make you record, Mr. Sakati, what you just said is irrelevant. Was council took a decision in 2018 that you must centralize. It's irrelevant what is being said now. What's supposed to have happened since 2018 when that council resolution has happened is a report which Mr. Nampu did indicate, Councillor Kamkam, that he wants to bring to council. Why is it difficult to bring this? I'm upset because why does it took from 2018 up until now to actually try and give council back a report why it's difficult to implement? Even if it's difficult to implement, because I'm convinced in terms of what Councillor Tapa has read, that there's resistance. Because if there's no issue of resistance, the advice about it's going to be impractical or impossible to implement. It's an advice that's supposed to have come at the time that the decision was taken. Where are we really? And I'm asking this difficult question because I'm finding myself week in and week out in the organization that we are serving. Administratively, where we're supposed to be giving the correct advice to councillors to make an informed decision. And with dismally, not completely, but with dismally, fail in terms of giving that advice. I don't think it's an institution that I am prepared to allow this thing to continue. I am not prepared. I said it to the directors, we're having extended management. I want to repeat it, it's not an institution that I am prepared to lead, that this thing must continue. Councillors, I will appeal that we take the recommendations once for noting now until we get that report, because I don't have that background and all of the things with the information that was given, Councillor Kampa now in section 18, that will be given a report as to why is it difficult. As it stands now, that council decision has not been rescinded. It stands. Administration, both corporate services and community services must go and implement that decision. That's what it is. Otherwise, why are we having council meetings that will take decisions? Why are we then having council meetings that will take decisions? And then we go afterwards. We then decide, no, it might not work in this way. I was sharing with Michael Rode today that I've got an email of 2.5 pages where the mayor said I could respond to this person and say he's a racist. And I decided deliberately not to respond to this person because I was looking at the matter that the person is actually raising. He makes a lot of mistakes, he's angry, but I looked at what he is raising. He's raising something that we've asked, the mayor has been asking about the sign that is at the Dolphin Circle. I've asked department to go back and check whether that sign is correct to be there. People pull ranks in terms of authority. Now that email is all over, is with NCNA, ENCA, is it ENCA?
Yeah, that's...
E-News, SABC, Cape Agas, the Office of the Premier, the Office of other, everyone. Because administratives, we try to pull ranks. even when council have made a decision that we must implement a decision, why did that advice not come at that time that we're unable to implement this thing? And even if we made a mistake at that council meeting, we didn't have all the information, which seems to be the norm in the institution. That will go in council meeting unprepared, we don't have the information, we'll realize only after 3 years that we didn't have all the information. But why wait so long and not bring this item that we are told about now? Well, then we have to ask council correctly to say rescind that decision, which is what Mr. Namdi is intending to do, and is doing the process correctly. Rescind that decision, but why all of that information was not provided? It can't be tolerated, Speaker. I would appeal to council to note this, that council decision stand, the two directors of corporate services and common services must go and implement that decision.
Councillor Mhlala?
Yeah, Speaker, I couldn't say more to what the municipal manager have just said now. You know, Executive Mayor, it seems that there is an element of undermining this council by officials. And I don't think we must, unfortunately for UMM, you will have to come and apologize to us every time. And it's uncalled for. It's wrong. I think all officials, whether they are senior or junior officials, must start taking us serious. We must be taken serious. We must put our foot down once and for all. We can't continue and go on like this. Every time there must be an apology, there must be a retraction of an item because officials are not doing their they are supposed to be doing. So I think we really also need to put our foot down, Executive Mayor. Thanks, Speaker.
Thank you. The item is still serving. We only had a proposal by Councillor Kamka. Executive Mayor?
I'll second the proposal, the recommendation by the Executive Mayor with the extra point that the after hours emergency number needs to be available.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Next item, Section 3. Communications Language Policy for the Bitou Municipality and suggested actions comply with a review by the Pan South African Language Board in brackets PANSALB. Item C, stroke 3, stroke 54, stroke 08, stroke 22. You would find the item on page 469 to 478. Item is now serving. Councillor Kamka.
Thank you, Speaker. I propose we can go with the recommendations of the Executive Mayor.
Councillor Olivier.
I second the recommendation by the
Opposed by Councillor Kamkam, seconded by Councillor Olivier. I'm moving to Section 4, Community Service. And the first item is Bitou Municipality Standardized Western Cape Disaster Management Plan. Item C, stroke 4, stroke 19, stroke 08, stroke 22. Item is on page 480 to 584. Item is now serving. Councillor Kolwapi, is that your hand? Councillor Kolwapi, Councillor Mhlana, Councillor Ndai.
I go with the recommendations of the Executive Mayor and also welcoming the person who deals with disaster there to see him in the council today. Thank you.
Thank you. Proposed by Councillor Kolwapi, the Councillor Mhlana.
Yeah, Speaker, on the recommendations from our portfolio committee, we said that there is here an officer and what is this other thing? Coordinator. And officer and the coordinator, it's the same thing. Just that titles that have been changed. We said this must be, we need a fully fledged unit with a man. So I don't know what they're gonna do with the two people, but we need a fully fledged unit with a manager.
Councillor Ndai, is your hand up?
Yes, Speaker, I would like to second Councillor Martin, thank you.
I'm Martin now.
Thank you.
Using this council. What is it with you?
The follow-up is seconded by Councillor Ndai. Next item, it's the disposal of municipal properties. Item C, stroke 4, stroke 22, stroke 08, stroke 22. Item is on 585 to page 604. Item is now serving. Councillor Ndai?
Speaker, I will go with the recommendation that is on page 586. Thank you.
Disposal of municipal properties.
Executive. The executive mayor.
Speaker?
Councillor Tsabai?
Is it a big word, disposal? Hey, I was like confused. Speaker, disposal of municipal property. I'm seeing so many errors. Is it the municipal houses that you are having? That's the first question.
Yes, it is.
Why are we disposing them?
No. Amen.
I see the item, but let me first maybe state it again. Municipality is having these properties, and in terms of process, council, just go down. Go down, executive, under the executive, that says that the municipality owns these properties and the conditions of these properties and the maintenance cost that is there, and the fact that the rental is not being received sufficiently. There's a table that also indicates the rental not being received on these properties. That these properties are becoming a burden to the municipality because council must consider, do we really need these properties in terms of providing basic services in terms of our professional mandate? Because these properties are held as what you call investment properties, where we actually lease with the intention of getting rental income on them. That process is proven in terms of the process as per the item, that we're still sitting with people who are owing, who are sitting with the properties owing, and also the conditions of these houses have actually deteriorated to an extent that at some point in time would actually lose much value in these properties by continuing the way that we intended to keep them as investment properties. Currently, it was intended to be investment properties. However, they are not investment properties at all. They are becoming a burden to the municipality in terms of maintenance and cost, but also the fact that there's no income coming. So that is the intention. So because these properties are municipal assets and municipal assets are community assets, we need to get the community to indicate whether they have any objections on the views of council that to say these properties are not needed to provide water, electricity, sanitation, not for the person staying there, but in terms of our operation. So if the community says that they have no objection because these properties, we don't use them to provide that services, then it comes back to council in terms of the process, But that process, Councillor Tsapai, is actually directed by the regulations in terms of alienation. So now we're not alienating the property. To ask the public, they will come back. As it comes back, it comes back to council, we take that decision. But the firm resolution of council now is the last one, which says that these properties are not needed for provision of basic services. then it will come and then council will then proceed with that process in terms of looking at alienation of this property. Thanks, I hope I've clarified.
Thank you, thank you. Is that clear, Councillor Sapai?
Speaker, Speaker, these are assets of a municipality, of which the municipality, its people, its government, its people. And really, I thought I was going to get a very serious explanation, seriousness of the explanation, why are we disposing these properties? Because if the policy says you are in those municipal houses based on the market value, and you are no way that market value, I don't see a reason you stay there. This is down. We need investment from those houses. Let's make an example. In these municipal, in the houses of individuals in town. Go and rent a house just for a weekend. You pay more than 15,000 weekend. We are a very small municipality. We cannot afford to lose our assets. There are so many assets of the municipality. And we must keep those assets for the future. We can't dispose such serious investment for the town. If it is the reason that people are not paying, they must get out of those houses. I can make an example. There's a court, a very expensive court here in Platte. Developmentally, will rather also need a 24-hour hospital. But these people that are going to work there, where are they going to stay? Because we've heard from them, they're saying Plettenberg Bay is very expensive. We are a sphere of government that can assist because we need services in Platte. There is no 24-hour hospital, and that 24-hour hospital needs a doctor, needs nurses. That court needs judges, needs lawyers, needs magistrates. Where are they going to stay in Platte if we are disposing the assets of the municipality? So there's a whole lot we can debate about this, Speaker, and I'm worried that I'm not going to speak on behalf of the people. Yes, I agree, public participation must be done, and it must be loud-tailed, and everybody knows that disposal, what disposal is. Ngithethe nangesixhosa kuthiwe ukuthengiswa kwezindlu zikarhulumente kwenzele baye bebaleka abantu emahholweni. So it must start from us to say no. The disposal of
And I thought we are in the same page in understanding, all of us, that these properties currently are investment properties, but they're actually given to municipal staff. They're not given to doctors and nurses and people that are going to work at the court or principals that are appointed in our high school. That is not the current situation. The current situation we are in, they are given to municipal officials through a process and the policy that is not implemented correctly. That has actually led over the years for this municipality to lose revenue that could have been collected in those properties. Additionally to that revenue that has been lost, these properties are mistreated by the officials residing in these houses to such an extent that we have to do maintenance cost higher as a municipalities. If one picture that you saw, you think the house looks good, I don't know. Maybe we've got different views and eyes. If you go and visit all these municipal houses, go and look at them with the house that is next door. Go and look at that house that I'm talking about now and compare it to the guy that has complained. What is his name? Erasmus. Look at the house of Erasmus. The property, the value of my property, because of the way that you have actually handled that house. You can show a picture of that house. Can't remember the street, you know. Can't remember. That's, I think it's a Meral house or something. And if Ludolf were to actually even go on Google on GIS now and show you just on that street, you will see how terrible is that house compared to the other house that are next to it. And the community, those people are complaining to say, this is affecting the market value of our property. Can't you just clean outside? Just clean outside.
You're right.
That's what the people are actually asking. So I don't know. That is why sometimes I'm asking myself, where are we? Because we seem to be in different limbos, even on something that is the reality in front of us. The reality in front of us is these houses are not given to people who would want to reside here. So this question also came. If that was the intention, maybe then it's good. But this also question came, I think it was Councillor Folwang. But it's similar, but it was directed to what are we going to do with the people of the municipal staff that are residing. It's not the responsibility of the municipality. You are creating something where now each and every municipal official, each and every person appointed in this town, the municipality must try and find accommodation for them. It's not the responsibility of the municipality. It can't be the responsibility of the municipality. So Councillor Kolabi raised this issue. I said, I understand. And I even said jokingly that maybe it's a woman's month because you are actually having that little heart in terms of being caring mother. But it cannot be the responsibility of the municipality. I made an example about Zola Maputo. Is Maputo, no, his surname? Yeah. If he comes here as a road manager, why should we worry about where he stays? Equally, then he should worry about me. I should not be renting. Equally, you should be worried about Felix Letter. Equally, you should be worried about what is this lady, Mike, of yours, pregnant now? That was Asif coming from Mosul Bay. Why must she rent at Santini? If there's a leeway and leverage that council is giving to other municipal staff to be accommodated in town, we are focusing on something that is not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to ensure that these assets are properly maintained and are kept as investment properties, get rental income appropriately, and we protect the image of the municipality by having these properties cleaned and properly maintained. And that is not what is happening. And if that does not properly explain the condition of these houses and the current reality that we are in, I don't know much how I can explain it, but it's for council to decide because this is a council decision item. There were other positive issues which actually were raised, I think by Councillor Mhlana, if I'm not mistaken, about if we intend, and I think this is maybe where a valid debate is, not just because it was said by him, because I want also to be corrected that I'm not misquoted. that if you intend to really sell these properties, are you able through the legislation of finding a way then that actually try and reserve this for locals? Because you're gonna have somebody international who comes and buy this because he's got money. Are you able? Then in that way you are addressing, and then Councillor Kapai, through you speaker, I don't think you are differing, but you are addressing what maybe you are trying to raise, that people who are locals then to be able to buy, they can do that through us as council, making it accessible for them to buy, because outside in the market, it's very difficult for people to buy in plant. And I raised this matter in the last meeting. It was Councillor Poison as the mayor, Ratepayer Association, Felix Letter as a CFO, and Councillor Pauls. And I said he might have said the statement to one of those guys that I remember. He says, no, you decided to stay in the PGhead. Go and buy a house in Konokutula. You can't complain about the rates that you must pay in PGhead. That's what you said last time to that gentleman. He was unhappy about it, of course, for that reason and all of that, So there are things that are market driven, which we cannot have control on. There are things that we can have control. If we want to have control in terms of this, ensuring that people get access, maybe we can look at the item the other way. That is a valid point, thanks, Speaker.
Thanks, Ma'am. In terms of the hands, it was Councillor Botha, Councillor Nel, Councillor Mslana, and then the mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. Just two queries. What is envisaged? Obviously, some of those houses, they are currently services in one of the councillors' houses in Pix. Where are they? Are they going to be? Is their office space going to be incorporated elsewhere? And then, secondly, what is envisaged from the proceeds of this? Are we going to ring fence the monies raised and keep it for capital investment? For example, into new offices, looking at Ladywood and the Coming Together program. Do we know any information, or do we have any idea of this at the moment?
And I start by saying thank you for the question. The reason I'm saying thank you is because this item is not in isolation. And that is why I always ask this question, where are we? You would recall that there's a Coming Together project. And in the Coming Together project, already incorporated that these items, should they be sold, you will then have some money which you can then utilize to continue with the Coming Together project. So, and I was asking somebody yesterday, in terms of the Coming Together, have we abandoned that or not? And I said, I want to bring an item or something in the next council meeting, because I also don't know where I'm sitting. Is that abandoned? Because if I read the council resolution, it only talks about affordability. So the intention is to look at this. If there are properties that really can make sense, economic sense to be sold, we need to then understand what is the cost of doing a building only for the public safety. If the cost for the building of doing public safety, let's assume it's 5 million, I don't know. This is what this process is going to determine for us. Then out of these properties, if it's possible, if we're totally selling them directly, we're going to get 50 million. So why not take 5 million, those high value ones, go and start the building there. In that way, what are you then doing? You've got your own building, you continue to bring your Coming Together. Because now we're on Coming Together since when? But we're not implementing in terms of how are we getting to Coming Together. So this is part of the process to say that we will then look at the cost of that building on that thing was over 350 million. 350 million, Mike? 350 million, I'm just talking roughly now, years ago, I don't know the latest figures. So if the municipality then decided to say we don't have 350 million to do, but I think that's going to be a public-private partnership. I don't know what the municipality said is available, but the municipality is supposed to have known or indicated that these properties plus other parcel of land, because remember, we're not talking only about these properties. Later on, we'll bring an item about, what's the name of that place, the beach? Moby Dick. I don't know if Lookout is ours, those commercial properties, we're gonna bring an item in terms of that, Moby Dick, I think it happened, something bad or somebody banned it. There's no income coming in now. There's nothing that is coming in. So we're gonna bring that item about all those commercial properties. And we say in these commercial properties, we are likely gonna get a 35 million or a 55 or 110 million. So we've got 110 million of the 350 that we're short of to achieve our objective of coming together project, So, but I think I've learned after I've spoken to Mr. Roden and asking him every time where are we that maybe a workshop is better to be done, outline all of these things, because I'm telling you, after 4 years, the next election, we'll be sitting, and I want, before we get to that, we must resolve now that coming together is no longer feasible. We stop it, don't continue. You cannot sit with the decision of council that is hanging the objective. We're sitting with objectives that are hanging in terms of what we want to achieve. Hanging all the time, we want to achieve it. So I want to bring a situation where we say, this thing is hanging, we're unable to do it, close shops. This thing is still possible, how do we revive it, So there's an element of this item, because I know when I started in April, the executive mayor told me that they've been asking for this report all the time. There is an element of, what do you call it, Felix? Market values, which are missing, which is slightly problematic. Hence, I'm thinking that rather just do a public participation where you're actually asking people, is it worth for the municipality to keep this or not? And then before it comes back, it must be clear that what are the market values and all of that, and all of that process in terms of this process. So it's really up to council, but you are correct, Councillor Bota. The item, we are reading it correctly. We are reading in line with other council decisions, that the intention will be then to start to look at which ones we can sell now, because remember, we cannot sell. If we decide to sell next month, where are they gonna go? So we have to look at the process, which one must we really sell? There are some of these properties, must we really sell them? Or we just have to correct the process of not giving to municipal officials and make it open to anyone who wants to rent them and rent them. In that way, then Councillor Kapai, it solves, I think, what you're trying to raise. You are getting, as an investment asset, the applicable rent that you're supposed to get. But current reality, on our own internal processes, we are failing to yield the results of investment properties in these properties. That's the current reality, that we are sitting with. Thanks, Speaker.
Thank you.
I think it is.
Just have you exhausted your time. Let me, in the following order, councillors. I need to give to others also. Councillor Nial, Councillor Mhlana, and then the executive mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I would like to second the proposal.
You see?
And I would like to suggest that there is some discontent amongst people about the wording as far as alienation and disposal is concerned. I would like to suggest that we remove the word alienation and just prefer disposal.
Wait. Remove the word alienated.
Alienation.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, and Mr. Lotter can help us here, the MFMA does not refer to alienation, but refers to disposal. And I think that this whole process has to take place in terms of the MFMA regulations.
Thank you. Councillor Mhlana?
Yeah, thanks, Speaker. I think in our portfolio, we deliberated on this issue. And we asked serious, difficult questions, because we see in South Africa, everything gets to be sold. And it's bought by white monopoly, privileged.
Foreigner,
White people.
foreigner.
SAA sold, they want to sell Eskom now. They are selling everything. So we don't want also here in Plaid don't want to find ourselves here in Bitou, everything gets to be sold. What we had, we were getting some we were getting rentals or whatever from, it gets to be sold. So hence, if you look at the recommendations, we said that recommendation 3, 4, and 5 tells you that this must go for public participation. And we've also said that we need to get the market value of those properties before the council takes any decision. And we want to hear what the community is saying. So we were clear, because also, you know, there's one manager here. That manager is getting paid a scarce skill incentive, whatever you call it, allowance. But that person is staying in an RDP house in Guanagutula. And I can imagine how much a person is paying in an RDP house or a flat in Guanagutula. A mere 2,000 rand. And that person is a manager. So really we needed, yes, these houses were abused. If there are interns staying in these houses, it tells you that these houses were really abused. By whoever that was responsible, the houses were abused. And they were not abused by politicians, because I don't think politicians are the ones who are giving houses. What giving houses to? That's what I'm trying. I'm not. Where are we? The question still remains: where are we?
In the chamber.
And I think the answer is from you.
Can we have it? Can I allow after Mhlala before terms of the hands? I know you've exhausted your time on the topic.
Thank you, Speaker. In 2017, I put in a motion on residential properties that the municipality owns, asking what the rentals are that we receive and what the value of the properties are. I never ever got conclusive answers or exact answers. But what was clear from that is that we're not getting, this is 2017, at that point, we were not getting the rentals that were market related. The rentals were 2013 values, if I remember correctly. And in most cases, we didn't even have leases with the tenants that are in the properties. And I asked the same question the following year about our business commercial properties and got even less answers back there. But what was clear is that there's not a willingness, either a willingness or an ability in this municipality to look after the administration of those properties correctly, to ensure that we get the rentals we should get. There's not the willingness or to even try to maintain the properties in any condition without a lease that puts the onus on the tenants to maintain the properties. The properties come are becoming a state of disrepair, which is what's happened. So if we have to look at the properties now, if we just look at the one house in Rainbow House, it's probably going to cost us 300,000 or 400,000 just to get into a rentable state. And then there's no guarantee that it's not going to go back into the condition it is. And that is why I have to question whether the properties bring us in any money or if it actually costs us money at the end of the day. If it's costing us money and we don't have the ability or the willingness to even look after it, why are we keeping them? Maybe that money can be put to better use to develop other areas that the municipality needs to develop, as the MM spoke about. So that was my concern about properties, and this goes back, as I say, to 2017. So if nothing's been done in the 5 years since then, is to get the leases up to date. How do we expect it's going to happen going forward? It does not seem to be the willingness, or whether the people that are running it have got the ability to do it. And that was my take on the properties again back then, and nothing's changed it from now, because nothing's changed with the properties, except that the value is probably depreciated because of the state condition that they're in.
Thank you, Mayor. Seems like the people is holding back in the portfolios there. Want to blow out here in the chambers? Please blow out all the air in the portfolios, and then we can get the final piece of the
This is council, this is the council meeting.
We will move now
This is the council meeting. We must talk here.
to the next council,
Of course,
item.
when you are rising now.
The next council item that will be read by the guy coming from the horizon is
Council is not new rising.
Oh, stop it.
waste minimization.
This is council, grow up.
We are moving now to item C, stroke 4, stroke 23, stroke 08, stroke 22. Bitou Local Municipality Waste Minimization Plan, brackets WMP, final document, page 605 to 736. Item serving, Councillor Ndai, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to go with the recommendation by the mayor on page 604. Thank you.
Proposed by Councillor Ndai,
I second, Speaker.
seconded by the Deputy Mayor. The section 5. Engineering services, we have one item. Capital projects implementation plan in brackets CPIP. Progress report for period ending June 2022. Item C, stroke 5, stroke 34, stroke 08, stroke 22. You would find the item on page 738 to page 746. The item is now serving. Councillor Ndai, Councillor Mhlanga.
Go with the recommendation, Speaker.
Supported.
Proposed by Councillor Ndai, seconded by Councillor Mhlanga. Section 6. Economic development and planning. First item is R54131, Letterman Bay, proposed development status report. Item C, stroke 6, stroke 42, stroke 08, stroke 22, page 478, page 479. Item is now serving. Councillor Nyal.
Speaker, I propose that we go with the recommendation.
Deputy Mayor.
I second, Speaker.
Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Second item, it's R13206, Panagatula proposed list for parking purposes. Item C, stroke 6, stroke 43, stroke 08, stroke 22, page 750 to page 753. Item is now serving. Councillor Nyal, Deputy Mayor.
Speaker, I propose that we go with the recommendation.
I second, Speaker.
Proposed by Councillor Nyal, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Next item, it's item C, stroke 6, stroke 44, stroke 08, stroke 22. Approval of draft Bitou House shop policy for purpose of public participation. Item is on page 754 to page 765. Item is now serving. Councillor Olivier, Councillor Kamkam, Councillor Nyal, Councillor Mhlanga.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, this is also an item that I think it was 2019, if my memory serves correct, that I put in a motion for the spaza shops, which is equal to what we're seeing now. Also a challenge for me that it's taken so long because, Speaker, we've had an explosion of spaza shops right across our communities, and the Bitou municipality has taken no responsibility of the growth of those. We are even sitting with the issue that is coming up now, which directly relates to this kind of problem because of businesses sprouting up like mushrooms with no control over them. And as the mayor also alluded to a motion that we put in, I don't know what year, with something, this was also a motion that I brought to this council 2019, and there was an item on it. And it's the only time now that we see. And as Councillor Kulapi said so well, or Councillor Martin, we deal with things when they become an issue, and this is now an issue. But having said that, I'm also very glad to see this item coming. I want to go with this recommendation, but it's very, very late. And I want to appeal to our officials that when we request something that's important to us on the ground, that please, as soon as possible, to give attention to it, because this has taken too long to come to this council. Thank you, Speaker.
Councillor Olivier proposed. It seems like it's again a matter of where are we, 2019? Hanging.
All leadership here, that we have to ask.
Next councillor, it's Councillor Kamkam.
Thank you.
I note you, Councillor Tapai.
Speaker, I am echoing all the sentiments of Councillor Olivier with emphasis on point number 3, as recommended by the Executive Mayor, that we do extensive public participation on this. I see it says there that councillors in the public meetings address the job house policy, blah, blah, blah. But I think we should go further than just the councillors' public meetings. We should do extensive public participation on this. Speaker, I am seconding the proposal by Councillor Olivier.
Thank you, Councillor Kamkam.
I was the next.
In terms of the order, hands raised, Councillor, I will be with you. Councillor Nyal, and then Councillor Mslana, and then Councillor Tapai.
Are you done, Madam
Speaker, this lighting could just keep himself in check. Speaker, I have been covered with this dramatic expression by my co-councillor next to me.
Item has been proposed and seconded. I will allow some closing arguments.
Yeah, Speaker, I wanted to suggest, Executive Mayor, on that meeting that we're attending tonight, to take this person who's responsible for this to that meeting with us, so that we get a comment, because we must not run away from the fact that all spaza shops in my street, there is 5, all owned by foreign nationals. All 5. If you drive in my street, there is 5 of them. So we take that person today. It's a good thing. I support it. I support my fellow colleagues there. We take that person. We start today on this issue.
Let me just take Councillor Tapai and then you can go close.
Speaker. Icela that junior official angayi kule meeting ngoba junior official ndidibene nayo ngomgqibelo ndayicela ngathi ndidikiwe le nto ikuthiwa isuka kudala isizwe and andiyazi uba siphi. Ndicela ubana wena undenzele le nto ndidelegata kuwe. I don't care about the protocol nantoni, and I want to appreciate ubana that junior official at least utrayile. Rephrasing in Afrikaans, I'm appealing that I take that responsibility in this meeting tonight, because this is a junior official that really did, and I appreciate, because I got tired in terms of asking where we are, understanding that this thing is coming for a long time, and that junior official was requested to assist, and I think that junior official did the best to try and get us where we are. So I don't want him exposed, apparently, because it's not somebody that is ordinarily supposed to be even there. So the federal responsibility if our country can track.
Engagement, Councillor Tapai.
Speaker, you see, there is this notion. We are councillors. We take decisions in council. We make resolutions, recommendations, and officials must implement. Unless we must take decisions in council and we implement, and all the officials must get out of the municipality so that we can work as councillors. You see, even councillors are blinded. I don't know by what. There's a recommendation that was taken by council. They say again, they point fingers to politicians. It can't be. It's officials that must implement, not politicians. Ours is to sit here, decide about recommendations, once they pass, an official must run with that, with those recommendations. It was done in 2018, 2019. These things of Paza shop, it was not done. Must it be done by councillors? If it must be done by councillors, then we must fire all those officials. Then we do the work. Unfortunately, the law doesn't allow us. But stupidly so, some other councillors think it's politicians that, again, must do the work.
Thank you, Councillor.
I think we must educate some people. They think haywire sometimes.
I think, when we leave here, we must find where we are.
Speaker, I'm trying to arrange a workshop. We must find where we are in terms of that workshop. I agree with you, but that workshop will be complicated. We have to find where we are.
We will find where we are, Councillor Mhlala, not fire.
Oh, fine.
Thank you. The next item we move. It is the demolition of unlawful building, plate number BR 156, stroke item C, stroke 6, stroke 45, stroke 08, stroke 22. You would find the item on page 766 to 770. Item is now serving. Councillor Botha, Councillor Nyal, Councillor Mhlala.
Thank you, Speaker. I just, in our portfolio committee meeting, we had a list of all the legal challenges, and one of the legal challenges was with regards to this earth. I just want to know if that has now fallen away, if there's an update on that, or if that legal challenge is still there. Because also it's both, yeah, I'm not sure, I don't know if we have an update on it.
I'll get to answer your question now.
Speaker, the Julie.
Okay, Councillor Nyal, let me, do you want, okay, do you want him to go then?
Please, if you professor.
Okay, Councillor Nyal, continue.
Legal challenge is not over, simply because the court order that was issued back in 2016, I think, determines that if the demolition has to be done, as we now have the option to do, the reasonable demolition cost must be determined by going back to court. So that the reasonable demolition cost can be determined in court. Therefore, we will still be going back to court with this matter if the demolition does continue.
I think partially it covers that. The legal process is not really, because we must go now, after the market, go back to court, the court to determine that amount, I will now, Speaker, move on the positive and not ask really where are we? Again, this item, there's a court order. Court said demolish. Through our processes, we try to find other means of negotiating how we can do. You can't court order unless you appeal that court order in the upper structures of other courts and everything. So, Councillor Nell, forget to mention that now. Now the ratepayers want me now to be taken to court for contempt of order. Because it's contempt of what? Yeah. So I cannot afford that. That court order is standing. We must implement that court. And there's other implications here because even after that, there's no budget that has been made provision for this. And it was in the region of 4 million, 5 million, 3 to 5 million back then. No, so I don't know now, it might have been escalated and everything. But as you almost said, I'm going to face a Mutmano, Platinum, because it's a court order. You don't. Otherwise, it's no budget. Your report is as unforeseen and unavoidable, which you're not going to pass that definition. Because the court told you in that year, you had all the time to put it in the budget. So there's a lot of things that we cannot pass in terms of the test of trying to argue about what do you call it? unforeseen and unavoidable. It cannot be unforeseen and unavoidable, but we must implement this thing. Thanks.
Yes, yes. I just want him to give the explanation on that, Councillor Nel. I'll be with you now. And I just give to Councillor Mslana. Councillor Mslana.
Give a further explanation, let Councillor Mslana carry on.
Yeah, Speaker, you know, when we're talking about properties, we saw a picture, there's no picture, which building is this?
The one that looks to the Beacon Island. You see that?
On top. On top, the one is unfinished on top.
Signal Hill.
Docks block.
One that was
The homeless people also now have an outlook over Beacon Island. Okay, Councillor Nel.
Speaker, yes, something which will interest council is that the owner has now decided to auction the property, and the property is being auctioned in the next few days.
It's been advertised, I saw it on Facebook.
And it has been advertised, and it is, it's up for auction. There are some of the items mentioned in the auctioneer's advertisement that do not necessarily represent an accurate representation of the facts, but that's what it is at the moment. The property will and must somehow be finalized, because at the end of the day, that property is worth a huge amount of money, and it could bring in also a huge amount of rates and taxes, which it's not doing well as it is in the state it is. And this has been dragging on since 1983. Yeah. With that, I propose we go with the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Nel. Is a proposal that we go. Councillor Olivier.
I support.
Seconded by Councillor Olivier. Next item. Building Control Quarterly Report for April 2022 to June 2022. Item C, stroke 6, stroke 46, stroke 08, stroke 22. You'll find the item on page 771 to 799. Item is now serving. Councillor Nel.
I propose that we go with the recommendation, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to be sure in my own mind that it is in this report where we have the report back on the amount of building plans approved. It is in this report. I want to commend the department for the obvious speed up in housing. 85% of the house plans are approved within time.
What are you saying? Because we can't hear you.
The item is still open. Councillor Olivier.
I want to second the recommendation by the executive mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Olivier. Next item is the Economic Development and Tourism Report for April to 30th of June. Item C, stroke 6, stroke 47, stroke 08, stroke 22. You'll find the item on page 800 to 812. Item is now serving. Councillor Mangaba.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I'd like to actually remind this council that the last we actually said with a report from the Economic Development and Tourism, we had sent it back for it to be redone and be brought back. This goes back to what DMM has been actually alluding to ever since we started this meeting. That decisions are taken in this council, and then by the time we step out, everyone has forgotten about them. That when we come back here, it's like we're wasting our time. Because now I'm seeing a report here which details from April to June. What happened to the one we were waiting for? Well, be that as it may, I've given myself some time to actually go through the report. Another appeal I had made previously was, let's have a standardized way of actually crafting our reports. If they are struggling, there's other departments that are getting it right.
There's an item on the report itself about the Kolweni cultural village. I am privy to 2019 10th of October's item that was actually sitting in this council, where the very same notes I'm saying here. Let me just read it verbatim, the one that was actually tabled on the 10th of October 2019. Kolweni Cultural Village. The contractor was appointed for the relocation of residents. The supply and the erection of temporary housing has been completed. The construction of the Kolweni Cultural Village commenced. The project will take up to 5 months, fish-based. We are still sitting with this, and I can almost assure you now, if we go to archives, you'll find that we've had this, and it's just figures, and it's the same thing. What's going on? Going further, there's a point about events. The heading says this is actually from April till June, right? The notes in the events detailed up until December. So this means when they are drafting these reports, they just match whatever needs to be matched and they just give it to us, and then we'll see what to deal with it. I had made a point and an emphasis the last time we were here that there needs to be an amount next to each event that they're sponsoring, if they're sponsoring. None of that is mentioned here. We go further down. There's notes that they actually make about CEDA and what's to happen and all of that. We all know that, be it they mention CEDA or not, CEDA uses their own resources with regards to program they get to do. They shouldn't act blabs just to act as though they're actually feeding us what we want, whereas they're not making note of what is it that we want to actually be contained in a report. Lastly, though not least in significance, there's a note here about CWP. We sat together at that meeting. I remember you were also there. We said, okay, we understand that the application was actually sent because they were pressed with time. And if the application was not sent, we would not have received the funding, right? But ideally, after the funding arrives, we were set to actually sit with them and craft a project plan that will also speak to the priorities of the wards with regards to IDP. None of that was done. Now we're going to be trigger happy and we're going to start spending on the funds while we're actually not directing them to actually address the IDP priorities as per what we had spoken about. In that meeting, it was detailed that the last they recruited for CWP was in 2016. Now, if that was the last time we recruited and we haven't sat and regrouped and restructured a program, a project plan, what are we using these funds for? Are we really serving our communities? Does it speak to the unemployment that we constantly rave about? Does it speak to the IDP priorities that we actually said we actually going to sit and ensure that whatever funds that are available, they are linked and they are able to address those IDP priorities? I still maintain that this is not a standard that we're supposed to be actually, a standard report that we're supposed to be receiving in this council. And I can further say we are being disrespected and being undermined by the desk. And I further say we should refer this one back as well.
I just want to be on record, Councilman Mala, after the Section 8 meeting, informed me that what he has read about this place, he has seen it somewhere. And I feel embarrassed now that he actually reads the other previous council item that came. I don't know, is it 2019? The one that you read? 2019. A lot of we just have to make a follow-up, because if we really copy and paste from 2019 to today, it's really a serious matter. I don't think plagiarism is only for universities or thesis. any director of corporate services, I think it's really a serious matter also administratively. So please, let's make sure we make a follow-up on that one.
I would like also, before I speak, because it goes in line with what Councillor Mangaba has raised. At the very same time, the community of New Horizons was fighting. There was a balance of that project. It was said it was 250. At that time, it was already transferred to the cultural village. What Councillor Mangaba has raised, that takes me directly to before you're going to ask me, there's a sense that I've picked up specifically in reality. This is where the communities or we as representatives, when we're out in the public, get a hit as close because we are close to. There's a sense of I don't like you, and Councillor Tsapais also touched it on the previous item. I don't like you, I'm fighting with you, and I'm not going to do it. And then after one meeting, things get changed onto the next meeting. So there's really a big need for us to look into this, because it's going to come to you as the accounting officer, where the public is going to raise it every time. Because I'm on the point of 2019, where money and things has also been transferred. And here today we sit again, and it seems like we are nowhere around this. We need to come up with a solution, because our councillors is getting frustrated, and they are the ones that's getting the heat in the public. So please, my plea here is that we look into this section specifically, because it's not the first has pleaded on this, and it is a matter of, let them talk. When I'm leaving here, I'm not going to do anything. Thanks, I will constantly in touch with you to follow up to see if we are implementing what has been raised. Thank you, There was just need to get it. There was a proposal that we removed, that we sent this item back from Councillor Mangaba. I will then now give to Councillor Kamkam and then the Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. Can we just go to item 1, please? Just go up, down, whatever.
Item 1.
Yes. Go back. Yes, the RCPs. Speaker, in previous council meetings there, we did question whether we will be able to spend the grant, grant. At that point in time, we were assured that, we will meet the targets, but it's clear that it has not happened. I'm just raising that point here. The other issue is that what is happening with the cultural village? I mean, it's obvious that there needs to be investigation done into how funds were spent and how far the project is, because this is not sufficient. It's not telling us anything. And now I even see that it says there that the Kolweni Cultural Village spoke to Horizon Public Square, the expenditure.
Being hijacked.
That's even more confusing. And, so I'm not sure how other councillors feel. For me, I mean, we can send the item back, but I honestly think we need an in-depth investigation into this culture, the project, how far we are, what the money was spent on, because to me, it's just very fishy. That's my proposal.
Thanks, Councillor. Executive Mayor, then Councillor Mhlana.
Thank you, Speaker. As Ward 2 Councillor, even though this cultural village has always been in Ward 3, I've raised concerns about the slow progress on this. We, in fact, for 2 years, it was budgeted, there was 400,000 in a year budgeted, and the money was never spent and then taken away. And this has been carrying on for a long time. And if you go and look at what is there now, I don't think we've got value for money for what is there. So this needs to be expedited, and there needs to be questions asked as why it's taken about 8 years just to this point on this project as well.
Councillor Mhlana?
Yeah, Speaker, I'm not going to answer for officials, but I know that the cultural village project we've done with the first phase. I know the project manager resigned. I was supposed to do the next phase, the cultural village. And the project, I don't know whether it was supposed to be reported
by LED tourism sector, or it was supposed to be reported by PMU, but that project is reported constantly by PMU. So I'm keeping on track with the progress in the cultural village.
Now, Executive Mayor, let's give to the.
We need to add to the recommendation to raise the concerns that Councillor has value has been put.
Okay, I take it, said must refer back, yeah, because Councillor Mhlana is raising something else that will open a can of worms. Read this report from planning and the report of PMU in terms of reporting on the progress and spending on this thing, you know, then it's gonna be another challenge, but I think it can be referred back.
Councillor?
I'm waiting for you to close the item so that I could I just have a minute after you close that item to say something?
I wanted to go to Councillor Kamkam to just hear from her. You are in favor of referring it back, Councillor?
Referring it back, Speaker, what exactly do we want? If we refer it back, if it comes back, what information do we want in the report? Because we can send it back, but then what happens after that? It's my point.
So many times.
Councillor Kabai?
Then that section must sit with that section 80 committee. So that they can be told what is supposed.
Your section 80 committee, Councillor, got 8 hours.
Oh, come on, I'm using English, man, your language. No, English is not your language, you're Afrikaans. Oh. That's
how are you going?
Section must meet that section 80.
Let me just take from Councillor Kamkam so that.
Speaker, my point was that if we point out the matters within the report that we are not happy with, and we highlight those, the ones that we need more information on, it would have been better to me than sending the whole report back. I'm not in support of sending the whole report back, because the report is for noting and for us to actually elaborate on the report.
Is there? Councillor, do you want is there specific points or?
Speaker, this is not to actually put anyone on the spot. This is to ensure that there's detailed information as required, and there is no underlying things that are actually not being handled. And I would rather when they do the report and they bring it back to our committee, that the accounting officer of the municipality sits with us, and then we go through everything. And if there's still questions, then that's when we'll actually go for further investigation and whatnot. Because the failure here is they get away with this every time because they don't sit here to actually tell us exactly what's going on with whatever. They just send this report and they keep it in their offices. So if there's a manner in which we can be able to sit with them with a proper report and detailing to each and every item that is actually contained in the report, and with the relevant officials, just so we actually get to the bottom of it. Because this is not to, like I tell you again, this is not to put anyone on the spot, but we are here for good governance and we'll maintain that.
Clear, Councillor Kamkam?
I didn't make this proposal, Speaker. I made my proposal.
I want to assist. Let me rephrase. Speaker, those officials must go to that section 80 committee so that this can be discussed further and be told. I don't want to say be done there, because councillors must not take the duties of officials. And one thing, Speaker, that makes me very angry, the director will come to a section 80 committee and you'll find out that the director doesn't have a gist of what must be done, or a manager will come at Section 80 committee. Because if then we want them to unpack the program of tourism, if it needs be, also the officials that are in that office must come. You see, so that we can do it together, because they are failing now. Let's do it together. If it fails, we are not going to blame anybody.
Councillor Slamdana, just before you, it was Councillor Nyal.
Speaker, I concur with the criticisms of this report. I am 100% as far, and it was mentioned by myself during the portfolio committee as well, the poor standard and the poor quality of this report. But we're not going to achieve anything by referring this report back. I think what we need to do is to take cognizance of this report and ensure that the future reports are done in the way that we are suggesting.
You've got to be kidding me. This is the very same statement you gave the last time. And here we are now.
Councillor, hold on. Councillor Mhlana.
Yeah, Speaker, I also want to concur. You know, this is a report, it remains a report.
It is what it is.
Section 80 committee, I don't know, because even last time we advised as a council that the officials must go, because in our Section 80 we call officials, we call managers, we call whoever that we want to call, so that we clarify issues as these. So I also want to concur that let's welcome the report, and when we criticize, let's criticize constructively, so that we are not seen as people who are fighting with certain sections. We want them to do the right thing, and we must advise them how to do the right thing. So I'm appealing to Councillor Mangaba that we welcome the report, but in the next Section 80 committee meeting, the LED gets invited and the tourism.
Okay, there's two proposals now on the floor. Can I then ask those in favor for noting and those in favor for not? Because now Councillor wanted to send it back.
No.
Because, sorry? Is he withdrawing? But I did, you can't speak on his behalf. I have not.
I'm not withdrawing anything.
You see, that's what I'm saying. I just heard anything withdrawing.
No, I'm saying Councillor Mhlana says he's appealing to the councillor to reconsider and allow the report to be accepted now. So maybe give him a chance to then listen to the appeal that Councillor Mhlana is making to him.
That's what I've raised, that we have a different feeling now. So it was still up to him to then.
I will urge the House and not speak.
Yes, because there was a different feeling. Okay, Councillor Mhlana is addressed to Councillor Mangaba. I don't know how you feel.
Look, if it gets to a vote, whatever this council decides on, that's the decision. But point is, if she were to play a recording of the last time we sat here with such a report, the very same recommendations were made that in the future one there shall be whatever. Here we are, sitting with an appalling excuse of a report.
Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker. May I suggest that we add a third recommendation, that the LED manager and staff meet with the Section 8 committee to discuss the future reports. So we note this report, we note that we're not happy with progress on certain things, and we put a plan of action in place to address the reports that are going to come out in future in terms of them meeting with the Section 8.
So you wanted to add a third recommendation? It was.
Anyway, he is the mayor, so you must listen to him.
Thank you. The third recommendation then added. This report will then be noted, and then we will then drive this all together instead of making it then in such a way. And then if the boat fails or the boat succeeds, it can be all of us. So
You're repeating what I said.
I'm saying Muslim.
This guy.
Can I then go?
Executive Vice.
Thank you.
Now that the item is closed, could I have my 1 minute, please?
I just want to make sure that administration received that. Proposal and the seconder. Are we all good?
Yes.
Okay. We will then move. 1 minute.
I just received a notification that a foreign national has been shot in phase 5.
Yo, like in character, you see people with it. Really? Yeah, let me find my Which one?
Finalize, let's finish the meeting.
Yes, we have one item on the portfolio of index. Councillors, we have one item on the portfolio of index. The last item on the portfolio of index, it's to the unregistered heir, 12916. In brackets, a portion of heir 256. Plettenberg Bay, proposed transfer and development current status and way forward. Item C, stroke 6, stroke 50, stroke 08, stroke 22. You would find the item on page 813 to 1003. Item is now serving. Councillor Nell?
I just want to go down to the recommendation of Speaker.
Item is serving. The recommendation is on screen.
Speaker, yes. I propose that we do go with the recommendation, and in particular recommendation 2, that the developer be informed that the rights have lapsed, the time has expired. The process has to restart again.
Note with that proposed by Councillor Nell. Councillor Olivier?
I second that.
Seconded by Councillor Olivier. That's it with the portfolio of index. I think we've covered all the items. The portfolio of index. Yes, we are done. We want to get into point 11. Urgent matters submitted by the municipal manager. None.
It's complicated. I would rather discuss it just before we pass the committee item.
So we find it. Needs to find where we are.
Can't find it.
I'm just going to put it in writing to find where we are. We will go now to point 12, the consideration of notices of motions. Sorry, Councillor?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was affected by this whole story. I just wanted to know, did we deal with the Section 71 report? Is it not in the agenda? Because it was in my code.
You are really.
Sorry.
I am.
Maybe let's quickly go back on that point and let's be proceduralist. I just also don't know how to do this. Please, that's correct in this matter, you know.
Yeah, man, I'm also now not feeling like. Councillors, can I suggest we take a 5?
Yeah, please.
And then get back again?
Can I ask that to switch off these things, please?